Good evening, everyone. Packed house. I love it. A lot of recognitions of our students and the hard work and the principals that move this district day to day. So appreciate everybody being out here. This October 24th, 2023 school board meeting in Manatee County. I want to start by first giving it to Ms. Foreman for the reading of the district vision and then introduction of our invocation.
The school district of Manatee County will be an exemplary, student-focused school system that develops lifelong learners to be globally competitive. And this evening, our invocation will be by Pastor Mark Ennis, pastor of Westside Christian Church.
If everyone will stand, please.
Good evening. If you would, bow your heads as we share in the invocation. Heavenly Father, you've entrusted us as stewards of your creation. Please guide the hearts of these men and women as they make their decisions. We seek you first in all they discuss and decide together today. We place before you the entirety of the agenda and the business of the school district of Manatee County as a whole. We give you the county's teachers, students, support professionals, paraprofessionals, volunteers, administrators, and all who serve in any capacity in our Manatee County schools. We specifically ask for your protection over our schools. May they be safe environments where our students can thrive and learn. Father, we confess that we are nothing without you, and we trust in you completely. In your name we pray. Amen.
Please stay standing as we present the color guard of Manatee High School and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Color guard for Manatee High School is U.S. Flag Commander Angel Santiago. Florida Flag Ashley Cholette. Right Rifle Drew Schoonover. Left Rifle Acai Rodriguez. Under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Todd Crawford. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, move to item number 7, which is the approval of the agenda. The chair has found good cause to amend the agenda to include all items listed under agenda amendments on October 24th, 2023 agenda, updated on October 23rd, 2023, posted on the district website, manateeschools.net. Some of the agenda items that we had to amend were some typos and some different things with titles. So do I have a motion
So moved.
for the approval of the agenda?
A second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Let's go ahead and cast our votes using iLegislate. That passes 5-0. Item number 8, approval of the minutes. Superintendent Weissong.
Good evening, Chairman and board members. I recommend approval of the minutes from the school board meeting on October 10th, 2023.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussions, additions, edits to it? Nope. Let's go ahead and vote on the approval of the minutes from the October 10th, 2023 school board regular meeting. And that is approved 5-0. Moving on to item number 9, Mr. Barber with our recognitions. We've got several recognitions this evening, one being from our students, one being for principals, and Farm City Week. So, Mr. Barber, is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Board Chair and board members and Dr. Wysong. I just want to say that I hope you notice the Good News Happens Here banner outside the board chambers today, and it's just a way for us to get the good news about what takes place in our school in our schools every single day that our schools are in session. Amazing things take place, and this is our way of doing it. We have a spot on our school district website, manateeschools.net/good news. We have over 500 stories that there and videos that you can go and check out the great things that our kids accomplish. And our first recognition today is right in line with that. Every single student that you're going to meet here during this recognition is a national competition winner. And so we have a long and storied history in technology, career and technical education and accomplishments in those areas. And here to tell us more about tonight's students and student winners is Executive Director of Career and Technical Education, Dr. Paul Gansimer.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us tonight. Chair Choate, board members, Superintendent Wysong, staff. We come to you tonight to present to you our first place national winners. Unfortunately, we have too many second and third places to be able to bring them in, and when you start talking about state champions, that's even more. So what you see is really a small representative of the great work that happens here in Manatee County, even though you're going to see a lot of students here. So tonight, just know that the students did not do it all by themselves. They did it with the help of their teachers, help of their administration, help of their parents and their friends, and of course ACT. We helped out a little bit too. So we're going to present them to you tonight, and what I'll do is I'll just going to read a little bit about CTSOs, which is Career and Technical Student Organizations, and then I'll introduce our first group to you. The purpose of CTSO is to enhance student learning through contextual instruction, leadership and personal development, applied learning, and real-world application. The CTSOs help students acquire knowledge and skills in different career and technical areas, as well as leadership skills and experience. They aim to help student members become competent, successful members of the workforce. So I'm the executive director, but there's no way I could do this all by myself, so I'm going to introduce my staff real quick to you. We have our assistant director for career and technical education, Kelly Kennedy. In the back, we have Christy Clark, who also helps out not only with our CTSOs, but work-based learning as well. So Christy Clark. With our CTSOs here in Manatee County, we have 7 of them. We have Future Business Leaders of America. We have FFA, which used to be called Future Farmers of America. It's now called National FFA Organization. We have FCCLA, which is Family Career and Community Leaders of America. We have Technical Student Association. We have HOSA, which is Future Health Professionals, Skills USA, and DECA, which is our marketing one. So today, I present to you our TSA national champions. And the school you see in front of you right now is Braden River High School. Principal Ackerman is here. Thank you, Principal Ackerman. And we have their advisors that went with them, Christy Goring and Roxanne Hendren. So thank you, ladies. And our students that we have in 3 different groups that they have first place finishes at the national level. Biotechnology design. We have Shreya Bhagavarapu. We have Joyce Shen. We have Sheena Karakula. We have Kyler Wade and Lauren Wade. Wow. Can we give them a round of applause? Yeah. For Dragster, we have Austin Bankudi. Austin, congratulations. And for promotional design, we have Joyce Chen. And yes, you did see Joyce's name twice, so congratulations to Joyce. So let's give a round of applause for Braden River High School as we have you guys go ahead and line up. Next up, we have Southeast High School, and we thank Principal Collins for being here tonight. We have the advisor, Nick Smith. So with Southeast High School, we have the engineering design team that received first place. I'll do the best I can with the names. So we have Nathan Ruprecht, we have Tomas Chamor, we have Brian Lemas Tejeda, we have Abby Height, we have Diego Caicho Ricci. Can we give them a round of applause, please? So our CTSOs aren't only for high school, we also have it for middle school. So our next one is King Middle School, so we'll have them come up. We have Principal Mullen here tonight. We also have Jonathan Briggs, the advisor. And we have our problem-solving team who finished first place, Jordan Gross and Tristan Linder. Let's give them a round of applause. Our next middle school, we have Nolan Middle School. And we have AP Sponsel here tonight. And we also have advisor Dominic Baganu. And they're right behind me, look at that. And their first place was with website design. So we have Eshen Burge, Kate Kitchener, Jenna May, Liam Mosley, Keegan Terry, and Jasmine Tinoco. Let's give them a round of applause. We have a K-8 school here tonight, so we have Palmview K-8, so we'll bring them up. We want to thank Principal Johnson for being here tonight and AP Kane for being here tonight. We also have the two advisors, Devin Schwint and Robert Mullins. So this team received first place for technical drawing, and we have Armando Gonzalez and Luis Rodriguez. Let's give them a round of applause. So I mentioned that we have CTSOs at middle school, at high school, and we also have it at the technical college level. So we have our award winner tonight. His name is Eric Edstrom, and he already graduated from his program. And he's on his second program right now. And I just want to do a little shout out to our instructor, Mike Rendas. So Mike Rendas, thank you for being here. This is Mike Rendas' second first place national winner. So he did it with two different ones. Now I've been told if he gets a third one, that's called a what? A dynasty? So he's shooting for that dynasty. And we also thank Ms. Melich for being here tonight to support from MTC. Let's give Eric a round of applause too. So we're proud to present to you our first place winners for our CTSO National Championships for last year. And we're looking forward to having even more this year. So thank you very much for the opportunity for us to present. We'd like to invite the board to stand in the back so we can get a lovely picture. And parents, this is the time that you can come up and you can take lots of pictures, but we need to make sure we listen to Mr. Barber first.
Yeah. I just, first of all, any parents in the audience of students?
grandparents
Please
would
stand up and be recognized. And now, since we have them all here, let's get some photos. Looking right.
One more round of applause, please. Mr. Barber, we thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. We look forward to having more for next year. Thank you.
That was great.
Congratulations, y'all.
Congratulations.
Good job, guys. Keep it up. Keep it up.
All right, they're making me feel old. One of them used to come trick or treat at my house.
Used to.
Just saying.
You still may, Tuesday.
He's not gonna get much if
Wednesday.
it comes now.
Thank you.
Don't you know your code? Yeah, but I can fix it. Do you want me to do it? Do you know how to do it? No. I'll do it. Give me your computer.
You can see it.
It's boring.
Or you can stay for the duration of the meeting,
It gets boring after this.
whatever you want.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wait a minute, no one wants to stay?
It's I2F.
I guess you don't have any takers.
Try it now.
Whatever.
Are so much fun, though.
Just make sure caps lock isn't on.
You know they're rushing home so they can watch it on TV.
Yeah.
She keeps changing it, so. Secure.
Do it before you hit enter to make sure your caps lock isn't on. You can click that little bot dot right there to make sure that your password's what it's supposed to be. Okay, now you can hit, see if it'll work now.
Okay, that was a very special group. As I said, all national competition winners. And this is a very distinguished group.
Yeah, give it a new one.
October is National Principals Month as designated by the American Federation of School Administrators, the National Association of Elementary School Principals, and the National Association of Secondary School Principals. And I know Dr. Wysong and Mr. Jensen and Mr. Rinaldi have great respect for what principals do for this school district. Each of them are representatives to portions of our community. Really, they're the faces of the school district to much of our community. And of course, we have schools spread out all over Manatee County. And so it's just, they play just a critical role to education in general. So it's great to recognize them. The people standing here with me today, this is their first year as principals in our school district. So I'd like to introduce them. From elementary schools, Dr. Melinda Lundy. Melissa McCullough at Daughtry Elementary School. I'm sorry, Dr. Lundy is with Bayshore Elementary School. And then Melissa Porco at Canaan Elementary School. And couldn't be here tonight. They had an event at the school, but Adrian Voss at Blackburn. Secondary first-year principals include Irene Nikotopoulos at Hale Middle School, Simone Cooper at Lee Middle School, and Daniel Bradshaw at Parrish Community High School. And again, couldn't be here tonight because of an ongoing event is Lori Starkweather of Sugg Middle School. So we do have a proclamation for Principals Month. So.
Proclamation, National Principals Month 2023. Whereas school principals provide indispensable leadership to students and staff at schools across the school district of Manatee County, and whereas principals are responsible for the day-to-day operations of their schools, which includes supporting the academic achievement of students, implementing and overseeing effective student programs, and building positive and meaningful relationships, and whereas principals serve as the face and voice of our schools to students, staff, families, and the areas of the communities in which they serve, and whereas principals work tirelessly to create a positive and safe school climate that is welcoming to students, staff, families, and the community, and whereas the National Association of Elementary School Principals, the National Association of Secondary School Principals, and the American Federation of School Administrators have all selected October to recognize and celebrate principals. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the School Board of Manatee County that the month of October 2023 shall be known, designated, and set aside as National Principals Month, adopted with a quorum present and voting this 24th day of October 2023, School Board of Manatee County, Florida.
Thank you, and I'm just going to give you one opportunity. Would anybody like to say something? Or? Okay. They said I said it for them, so we really appreciate you coming down. I know you guys work long days and into the night, so thank you for coming down.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry, and executive directors from elementary schools, Nat Cadilia and Dr. Stephanie Calloway. Mr. Clark could not be here this evening, but Willie Clark is our executive director of secondary schools. So, this next recognition is an annual tradition. Goes back many, many years. Before we were here, right. Farm City Week is a real tradition in Manatee County, and it always comes around this time of year, and it really is an homage to the history of agriculture in Manatee County, which is long and storied. So to tell us more is the Assistant Director of Career and Technical Education, Kelly Kennedy.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, Chair, board members, Dr. Wysong, and staff. We have the great pleasure of standing before you tonight to receive the 2023 Farm City Week proclamation. Farm City Week was conceived nearly 65 years ago to promote the interaction between city folks and the farming and ranching community. This year, we celebrate Manatee Farm City Week with the theme Innovations in Agriculture. While there are many people and commodities that could be highlighted as being instrumental in creating the foundation for the rich agricultural environment that we enjoy in Manatee County today, this year the committee chose to highlight the role that innovation has played and continues to play in the agricultural community, and particularly in Manatee County. It's my privilege to represent the members of the Farm City Week Committee that includes some of the most involved farmers, ranchers, nurserymen, and community leaders in our county. For those of you that are new to the dais since this time last year, you will come to know that I'm very proud of all of our career and technical education programs, but agriculture is close to my heart, as I come from a long line of farmers and ranchers, and I will take every opportunity that is given to me to talk about agriculture in Manatee County. Manatee County enjoys a rich agricultural history, and I can't say thank you enough to this board for their support in those programs. Most recently, you demonstrated that support by endorsing the new agricultural curriculum frameworks for kindergarten through 5th grade back in the spring. I've had the privilege of working with the University of Florida, the University of Georgia, the Florida Farm Bureau, Florida Ag in the Classroom, and other school districts, and the Florida Department of Education to write and submit brand new curriculum frameworks for elementary agriculture. We are currently waiting on approval of those frameworks from the FLDOE. We hope that soon we will have the foundation for elementary ag around the state of Florida, and you were instrumental in that. All this is due, at least in part, to your willingness to support elementary ag, the elementary ag program at Myakka City Elementary, which is quickly becoming a model around the state. We currently teach ag at 5 high schools, 6 middle schools, and 1 elementary school, and we hope that will expand in the future. While we didn't add any new schools this year, we did add an additional teacher to the existing program at Southeast High School. It is rare to find a district where ag programs are being added, but Manatee is the exception. We are also exceptional when it comes to the contribution that this county makes to the marketability of agriculture. The market value of agriculture production in Manatee County is ranked 2nd in the state, and of the 750 plus farms, more than 90% are family owned. Agriculture is always evolving, growing, changing, and adapting. Innovation is everywhere. Our ag students are learning about artificial intelligence, data science, geographical information systems, or GIS, regenerative ag, and controlled environmental ag like hydroponics, aquaponics, and aeroponics. And we know that agriculture will continue to innovate, automate, and grow more food on less land than ever before. During Farm City Week, we will recognize the Agriculturalist of the Year at the Kiwanis Luncheon on November 14th. We will induct a new member into the Ag Hall of Fame on November 17th. And if you would like to come to any of those luncheons, just let me know. We will host about 1,500 third graders at the fairgrounds on November 15th and 16th. This is the first year that Ag Venture will be 2 days, and we're very excited about that because it allows us to reach more students who typically might not have an idea of exactly what agriculture is. This exposes them to the various aspects of agriculture and helps them understand where their food comes from by teaching them about bees, watersheds, forest fires, tomato growing, and my personal favorite, how to make butter. You've never lived until you've seen a bunch of third graders shaking milk until it turns into butter. You might also want to visit the Downtown Farmers Market on Saturday, November 4th, when they will be celebrating Farm City Week with members of 4-H and FFA. And I hear that there might actually be some live animals there. During these weeks, our students also write essays and give speeches as part of the Farm City Week festivities. They will be recognized, the winners, at our Ag Hall of Fame luncheon on Friday, November 17th. We are also excited again this year to offer our farm tours to the public on Thursday, November 9th. This year, Farm City Week is November 9th through the 18th. Normally, at this point, I would introduce Mr. Ralph Garrison, but you all will be sad to know that he is officially retired from the Farm City Week committee, so no more big hat and big man talking about agriculture. However, Mr. Garrison would want me to remind you to thank a farmer, and his favorite phrase was, never speak poorly about a farmer with food in your mouth. So we thank Mr. Garrison for his many years of service to the Farm City Week Committee. Thank you to the board for all of your support of agriculture, not only in our schools, but in our community. And I believe now we're going to have a proclamation.
Yes. So, whereas in 2023, we celebrate the 68th annual Farm City Week celebration in Manatee County, and whereas Farm City Week is a celebration of agriculture and the contributions the industry has made to the local economy and to the health of all citizens through the food that they eat, and whereas the purpose of Farm City Week is to educate the community about the diversity of agricultural production in Manatee County, and whereas Manatee County agriculture continues to be a major contributor to the local economy with a market value of approximately $360 million in products sold. And whereas more than 213,000 acres, or 37% of the land in Manatee County, is currently used in agricultural production. And whereas there are approximately 750 farms of diverse size and type of production calling Manatee County home. And whereas the 2023 Farm City Week theme is Innovations in Agriculture, bringing attention to the use of technology in agricultural production. And whereas the public is invited to join the celebration through the festivities held as part of Farm City Week. And now therefore be it proclaimed by the School Board of Manatee County that November 9th through 18th shall be known, designated, and set aside as Farm City Week in Manatee County, Florida, encouraging all citizens to celebrate agriculture and its importance to individuals, families, our community, our state, our nation, and our world. Adopted with a quorum present and voting this 24th day of October 2023, signed by our chair and our superintendent. Well, I just want to say that the plants thank you for not giving me a plant this year. Thank you for being here.
Chair, I just wanted to make a comment that when I went out to the ag, I think it's at SAG, the new ag there.
Yes, ma'am.
Talking to the ag teacher there, some students were afraid to get their hands dirty. So I want to say thank you for teaching kids how to get their hands dirty and see what really, how food is grown and how it really benefits them to get dirty for real.
You're very welcome.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Barber.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 10, reports and presentations. So, Mr. Rinaldi, if you want to come up and do the schematic design construction update on the East County K through 8 project.
Good evening, Chair and board members and Superintendent Wysong. We're going to give you a quick overview of the K-8 design. At this point right now, we're in the schematic design phase. There are 3 phases we go through: schematic design, design development, then construction documents, and then we actually start building. So we're very early in the process, but we thought we'd like to present to you where we stand today and some of the innovative work that's been done as well. First, I want to give you an idea, just a recall. This is on the east side of the county, east of 75. It's in close to the Esplanada at Azario development. So that's off State Road 64. It's 6.7 miles east of 75. And for those on 64 who know the Bradenton Motorsports, it's 2 miles west of Bradenton Motorsports. So it's nestled in a community, but it is close to being fronted on 64 as well. So it's going to have easy access for off 64 as well as easy access for the community that's surrounding as well. What I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce Jessica Roddenberry, who's with HKS. The team who is the architectural team for this is HKS and Williamson Design. So we've got 2 architects working on there, 1 local architect with Ted Williamson. And then after that, Brando Fetzker with NDC will present a little bit on the schematic scheduling as well as the cost estimating. So I'd like to turn it over to Jessica.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having us to share this design update. I'm excited to be presenting with Brando what we've been working on over the last few weeks. Just to start with a little bit of an overview and a site plan, as Mr. Rinaldi said, we're sitting on the east side of the county. We are in literally a greenfield that's about 40 acres. There are about 1,500 single-family homes going up, so this is an emerging community, quite literally and figuratively, around us. We've been designing this around a courtyard scheme, as you can see, with a secure perimeter for a single point of secure access control. The school is being designed initially for about 1,700 student stations, or a little over 1,500 student capacity when you look at a K-8 utilization. We're also planning in our design work to accommodate a future expansion, and we're considering that both in our site layout and our building layouts on that. So really thinking future forward about the growth on this side of the county and what we need to accommodate in there. The school is roughly 235,000 gross square feet for this project. We have a dedicated car loop, a dedicated bus loop, and then because we're going to have several sections of pre-K, we've also got a little pre-K loop that comes off of the car loop, so parents that have littles that take more time to get in and out of car seats can pull off of that car loop and have time, and the kids have a secure point of coming off of that loop on there as well. Special programs, I know Ms. Kennedy stepped out, but we're excited that I believe East County is also going to offer ag programs. So we have an ag barn and a greenhouse as well as an ag lab. So more Farm City Week activities to come as this expands and really ties into the agricultural history that's on this side of the county as well. And then other aspects of this, as you can see, because we're surrounded by 3 sides with single-family homes, everybody is entering on the north side of the site with ample space to come in and queue on here with all the play fields on the south and on the east side of the site. Want to talk a little bit about the programming very quickly. This is a courtyard scheme. We have 5 buildings. The first of them is a combined administration and media center that you see in that top left-hand corner. The second building is a 2-story elementary school program where the second story is kind of that inside elbow that I'll show you here in a moment. The third building is on the lower right-hand side. That's a 1-story middle school program. The fourth one houses the gymnasium and the locker rooms and the athletic support spaces. And then the 5th building is a combined dining, kitchen, and art and music wing that you see. There are 4 ancillary buildings on this site. The first is a central energy plant. The second is a greenhouse that you see in the center of that courtyard that supports that ag program. The third is covered play, and the 4th is that ag barn on here overall. As I mentioned, it's a courtyard scheme, but we're completely secure. So where you see stars, we are actually creating a secure perimeter between those buildings. In some cases, that's some enclosed space, and in others, that's a single fence and gates coming across on those areas. The stars indicate entry points, where the one on the center is that main entry. So if you're coming off the car loop, we anticipate that all kids will enter there. On the left side, you're seeing that pre-K entry. So if I made my way around that car loop, if I have littles, I'll pull over and drop my pre-K students off. If I have other kids, I'll proceed back into the car loop and drop them back off at that front door on there. And then the third entry is the bus entry that happens over at the gymnasium, channeling students either in the cafeteria for breakfast or onwards into the classes that they'll be starting their day out in. What you're seeing here is the second floor. So I mentioned that two-story elementary school classroom where we have a partial second floor on there that really sits in that inside elbow, as I like to say, that corner in there. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is because of the scale of the school, the way that we've designed this and that blow up is that we have learning neighborhoods, and they are really entry points into both of the classroom buildings. They offer a place where we have some satellite administrations, or your guidance counselors, your support specialists, people that are really going to be working day in and day out with those students are outside of the administration area and really embedded into those classroom wings so they can be zippered in with faculty and with the students there. Those happen in both the elementary and the middle school wings, and so as you enter them, students will always find resources right there, whether it's a skills lab or resource room or teacher planning. They can always really find somebody to help guide them and get them where they need to go on those things and really have a community neighborhood. Aside from programming, one of the things that was really important to us as a design challenge is that, as I mentioned, this is a new and emerging community, quite literally. This is a new school and a new community that's going up, and things that were really important to us is this may be the first opportunity that people have to build new relationships with other parents or guardians or students, and so really thinking about how can this school create a sense of belonging and an immediate sense of community as we establish something new on this side of the county. Really thinking inclusively about residents that may already live out there that will attend this school to new residents that are moving to this area. How do we really build community around that and make them feel welcomed? And really thinking about student individuality, autonomy in a large school, and giving them agency over their learning and their growth. At the micro scale, because this is such a large school with 1,500 students, we're thinking really about scale and wayfinding, and how does it feel to walk on campus when you're 4, and how does it feel to walk on campus when you're in 8th grade. If students were to start this school and complete their middle school programs here, they would likely be on campus for 10 years. So really thinking about, that's a very large chunk of our time and our formidable years. So how do we really think about making this exciting over 10 years and giving them a place to grow that's exciting for them on here every day that they show up, even after 10 years, they're excited to still be here, and really leverage the power of a K-8 and building community. Also really thinking about, because of the scale of the school, how do we make it feel safe and relatable and have students feel at ease? And everything that we talked about really came back to this idea of home, right? This idea that everybody has a home, that's where we're most comfortable, that's our sense of belonging, that's our small community, that's our moms, our dads, our grandmas, our grandpas, and maybe if you're really nice, your brother or your sister, if you like them on there. And we really turned to this idea of nature and the idea that even with the sea turtle, right, a sea turtle always comes back and nests in the place that it's born. And for those of you who don't know, the temperature of the sand when a female lays its eggs decides how many girls or boys it is. So really that environment is shaping you from that day one into starting to think that way, to the fact that ospreys won't start a family until they kind of decide where their permanent nest is going to be. Or even this idea as kids, we're always building forts, or we like tree houses, or we're playing house. This idea of home is something from an early age that we're really always cultivating. And so we really challenged ourselves to take the form of a home in its simple form and start to think about that as a wayfinding tool in this, and so that students, when they saw that form, always know that it's a point of entry, it's a point of gathering, a point that they can find their peers, their mentors, their faculty, and those things. So as we go into the design, you're going to start to see it. This is a bird's eye view of that courtyard layout. You're looking at it from the north. So in that center part, you're seeing that front drop off, and you're seeing that gable roof as a large element that denotes entry on there. And it's repeated at places where we enter into the gymnasium or into the media center, so everybody really knows that that's a clear point of entry where you can come in, and it would be lit up if there's an event happening in the media center, like a book fair or an open house for kindergartners or new pre-K students, and thinking about that space, but really as a tool that would guide us throughout the courtyard as well. So standing up at that front entry. Of course, we don't have a school name yet, so you're seeing school name in here, but kids would be greeted by this gable entry coming in that provides shelter for these kids coming in, but is also large enough that when they're in the courtyard, they also know their way safely out, and they have an oriented view on there that provides function and a sense of place and scale on there. As we go into the courtyard, your top view is looking out from art and music, so you can see some of these forms starting to take shape across that courtyard. So if you find that gable roof, you know you found a door entry and where you need to go. It becomes really important when you're little in that courtyard space and you're making your way from dining back to your building. Kids need to stay on path. They need to remain going where they're supposed to go, and if you make it very clear, there's no excuse why they don't know where they're going as they're dawdling through that courtyard on there. That lower left-hand side, you can see that form starting to mark one of the entries into the learning neighborhood. We see this as an opportunity that each of these learning neighborhoods could be branded to pre-K or kindergarten or third grade and second grade, and then really grow into place as you grow into 8th grade. They can be outdoor learning classrooms, they can be places to stage as you're coming in, but they are essentially a canopy outside of that building as you come into there. And then that lower right-hand image, you're seeing the back side of the front entry. So again, that canopy element lets you know exactly back where you get to administration. So if you do have an event that's happening in public, everybody really knows where those entry points are on the building. And then I'm going to turn it over to Brando to really talk about our schedule and how we're going to start implementing this.
Thank you, Jessica. Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, Dr. Wysong. Thanks for the opportunity for NDC to present an update with Jessica and her team. HKS, WDA, and Department of Construction Services have really been a pleasure to work with to this point, and really at a extraordinary clip, you know, and the coordination that we're doing in a short period of time from our notice to proceed that was in late July, early August up to this point. We are working towards getting the civil package going early so that we can be concurrently working on the final drawings and do a GMP for the civil work. And then after that, do a critical packages. So that's for your mechanical equipment, electrical gear. So that's working from left to right, be your third bubble there, the critical equipment GMP in February of 2024, approximately. And then finally, a final GMP for the balance of the project in May of 2024. So you can see we're going to start on the largest of the buildings. That would be the two-story elementary school wing, followed by administration, the central energy plant, onto the frontage of dining, kitchen, arts and music, the gymnasium, and then finally the single-story middle school wing. And just calling your attention to how that goes schedule-wise. Probably easiest to look at it that all the buildings will be complete with the exception of the single-story middle school building for the fall of 2025 semester. That would be August. And then the single-story middle school wing will finish that spring semester of 2025. Next, looking at the construction budget and the expenditures, we've broken it down by fiscal year. So this is a continuous project, but the project will straddle three years. So fiscal year 2023, approximately $3.25 million. That's pre-construction, early civil package, that critical equipment that we talked about, and then the elementary school building being underway. Then the majority of the work would happen in that fiscal year 2024 with approximately $67 million listed there. And then finally, that balance of that project we described in fiscal year 2025 would be about $12.5 million. For a total project budget and the construction budget of $82,440,000. Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That concludes our presentation. We're available for Q&As, yes.
So I just have a couple questions, Jessica. Was this, so first off, the design, the scope, your presentation, the thought process was unbelievable. I mean, fantastic. I think that y'all have really thought, I think that the biggest problem that you foresee with this amount of kids is somewhat of the pickup line, right? And we've seen that almost every elementary school. How do we figure this out? And I think you guys did a fantastic job with that. Is this y'all's first K through 8 that you've designed? Okay, I didn't think so. Because it's just not this for us, this is our first build from scratch. And so I think the design is phenomenal. I think that you think about having a kindergartner at 5 or 6 years old to a middle schooler at 13, and how does that work, right? And where does that space, how do they eventually at some point share space and some point don't? I think you all captured a space where it's gonna be great for all ages. And so I thank you for that. I love the neighborhood, the learning neighborhoods. I think that that's where hopefully a lot of collaboration will happen amongst teachers and amongst classes, and then our specialists can get out there and do their work too as well. One question I have, and this isn't perhaps for you, and maybe this is just too early because we really don't know. I'll open up the can of worms anyways. When you've got a campus, and this is going to be Dr. Weissong a little bit, when you got a campus K through 8, and we potentially have time changes happening, obviously we don't, who knows, right? What is that, and maybe in your other districts, it just kind of came up as I was watching, right? Or I was, thinking about drop off elementary, buses coming in elementary, buses coming in for middle school, and we don't know our times yet. But is that a factor in creating K through 8? Like, there's definitely a savings, right? Having, not having two different buildings like this and doing it this way. But do you foresee potential that the timing changes being an issue? You know what I mean? I don't know.
I'll talk a little bit from an operational standpoint. I'm kind of looking forward to it because I'm able to evaluate where the children are coming from, and the fact that are we elementary, are we a middle, or are we somewhere in between that we can adjust arrival times, like can adjust transportation times. So I think there's an added element of flexibility from an operational standpoint, and I mean that would be whether we have the time changes or we don't have the time changes too. So I like it from that standpoint.
I certainly agree. I think that, no, it's right. No, I think it's a good point. And regardless, I think the attraction to families, particularly families with multiple children, multiple levels, is getting this done in one trip. And certainly I think around the state, that's why K-8s are proving to be popular. There are several other advantages as well. But I agree with Mr. Rinaldi. I think when you're working with a K-8, you don't want to think of it as elementary or as middle. It's unique, and that relates to start time, end time, how we staff it, some of the decisions that get made on the programming side. It's permission to think differently about schools, particularly since this is not our first K through 8, but our first ground up build.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even thinking about that way, that it is its own entity, and so, no, I'm excited. Board members, any questions, thoughts, concerns? Ms. Besser?
I had a couple questions. You had said that there's a plan for expansion, and I just wanted to make sure I understood in what we were given. Is it this piece here that is expansion?
Yes, it is. I'm happy to pull it up on the screen since not everybody
Yeah,
can see.
yeah. Well, and I just want to understand, I thought that, and then, so I had questions about that because that's only attached to the elementary wing. And then my other question was about this dotted road, and I wanted to understand that as well. That goes like behind the school. I just want to understand those things.
Yes, so you're correct. What you're seeing below the 2-story elementary school classroom wing is a 2-story expansion model that will give you guys about 250 additional student stations in elementary. When you look at the proportions, that will feed well into the middle school and give you guys capacity on that. And so that's how we've been looking at the dotted line that you see that looks like a road is actually fire truck access.
Okay.
So that we're thinking about that even in the future expansion to make sure that you guys don't have to relocate any of the items that have initially been put in as we plan for future expansion. And we coordinate all of those things with fire and rescue, especially since we're kind of boarded on all 3 sides by single family homes. Really thinking about that with fire and rescue from north access only.
So, are you saying that it'll eventually be paved, or that it's
No,
just
it's just
like,
stabilized ground
so that we know?
and we're tracking it in our layout so that we can kind of safely get things through the back of that if there were an emergency that needed to occur.
Okay. Okay. I think that was my only question. I just want to understand the wing, and
Yes.
so thank you.
Mr. Tatum and then Ms. Fry.
Hello. That was good. It looks like it'll be a nice building, you know? That was very energetic presentation. That was good, because usually some of these can be a little on the boring side, but you did a good job with the subject you had. So, I don't know who would like to answer some of these questions. Just for my educational purposes, how do we populate a school like this? Is it more like Field of Dreams, where you build it and they will come, or do they come and then you build it? I'm just curious, how do we populate these schools?
From the elementary side, we have Gullet Elementary School that is at capacity, over capacity at this point right now. So we will be relieving Gullet on the elementary side. On the middle school side, we'll be doing some rezoning. But it will be, I believe Mona Jane will be relieved from this as well. That is coming up on capacity. It's not over capacity at this point, but it's coming up into the 90% capacity. So there will be some rezoning associated with this, but we feel that we've got a pretty good group of children that are already at Gullet that would easily fill this campus on the elementary side.
And then in the past, because I've noticed that we do have elementary schools next to middle schools, how did we decide in the past to not do a K-8 as opposed to building two different schools? There must have been some reasoning, there's a reason to do it in the past. I'm just curious.
Well, if I look at Hale versus Freedom, I think the middle school came first.
Okay.
And then the elementary came because it was a fairly large parcel of land, but they kept the two campuses subdivided. And I think we've got some other campuses like that as well. But
Elementary, Braden River Middle.
yeah, so I think a lot of times the middle school comes first, but the K-8 is not a new concept, but you know it's within the past 10, 15 years that people have been trying it and designing it along that.
Okay. I mean, I guess you only have to have one principal, and there is some staff savings, and so, okay, great. Let's see. One question on the timeline. The second Golden Star, was that supposed to be 26, the spring of 26, as opposed to the spring of 25, or?
Well, it's 25, 26. I know the contractors work on more the annual
Right.
Okay.
in the school year.
So yeah, think of it as the 2025 school year being August and then that January, so yes, I mean, technically it would be 26.
Spring of 26, okay, great. And then one of the things that I've observed, and with my layman's eye, so to speak, is just traffic around our schools is difficult, to say the least. And one of the things that I've been trying to encourage us to do, and I know we do it to some degree, but we can always get better at it, is working with the county and looking at some of this stuff in advance. So not only inside the walls, so to speak, we have a good traffic setup, but outside the walls, hey, let's build a longer turn lane, or let's put a second road or lane in so that that's ready to go when the people show up. And it just seems like that's an area where we could do better. Again, I don't know who'd like to address that, or has it been addressed, or just thoughts on that.
In addition to that, we've had a lot of talk about golf carts as well, because this is a kind of a golfing community, and we're trying to accommodate the golf carts, but you're absolutely right. We're looking for, the drop-off for the pre-K, for the little legs, the short, but then being able to get back in the line fairly easily, and then continue on and drop off the older children as well. But I would say we probably have enough queuing for about 450 cars plus on this.
We have actually queuing for 1,500 cars
1,500.
on site, so not going to be a problem on that. And to address your previous question, data from us on the K-8 and what we trended across your two existing K-8s is about 60% of all cars actually have kids that straddle both elementary and middle, if that helps you guys from a data point looking at that.
Great.
We are doing a really comprehensive traffic analysis. We've engaged Stantec, who's doing a lot of the development for all of the developments around, so they're able to pull their methodology from the developments that are happening to understand the impacts of all of that traffic. And so they're working with us to study those turn lanes and all of those things and validate that as part of our county analysis and our site permit. So due diligence is definitely underway outside of our site as well.
Great, and so that, what I think I heard you say is somewhere the word county was mentioned in there, right?
County is mentioned, and we've been engaging with
Okay.
them for several months on here collaboratively, understanding that this is a very busy part of the county right now and them analyzing it. So we have probably bi-weekly meetings with them, getting feedback from them, so we have no surprises as we go to permit on here, and that we're designing in unison with what's happening around us and planning forward to the best of our abilities.
That's good. I mean, the parents will be happy, and it sounds like we're doing a good job with that. But, you know, day one, to not have a big, huge traffic jam would be a beautiful thing for the parents,
We're gonna
right?
be able to pull them off of that road just as quickly as they can turn right.
Great. I mean, and you know, you got to admit, as you drive around the county and you look at the schools, they're beautiful, but that's one aspect. That's an area for improvement. Let's put it that way, right? And so maybe this one will be the next step forward in traffic management, so to speak. You know.
Yes, and what's nice is it's separated from the parking lot, so as
Mhm.
people are arriving, you don't have people weaving through waiting cars on that, and we're able to wrap it around the stormwater since that's a feature we already have to have
Mhm.
on there. So it's working out really well to be able to provide that on-site queuing.
Great. As long as smart people like you were thinking about it, that's not an area where I would be able to provide, you know, a lot of expertise, but just take it the next step forward, you know, so that it's really, traffic is really not a problem as we build these new schools, so great. And then finally, isn't there one of our schools where maybe the layout of the playground wasn't where we would like it to be, that there's one school where the playground is kind of up against the main road? One of our schools, maybe it might even be Barbara Harvey out there.
Onika.
And someone said, and then the feedback that I got was, well, why did you put the playground right next to this main road? And I don't know that we're not supposed to do that, or it's not a good idea, or safety, security purposes. I just wanted to make sure that's not an issue with this school. Or
No, and I mean, a lot of with the courtyard plan, a lot of activity, outdoor classroom, that type of activity happens in the courtyard, and the playgrounds and all would be happening in the back quadrant, away from the main entry and all that. So.
We have pre-K and kindergarten play with nestled within that courtyard, so they have easy access from their classroom, so little legs aren't going that far, and we keep them nestled in there. And then we move the 5 to 12-year-old playgrounds down by covered play away from the classrooms, but with direct connection back there. They are a little bit removed from the drive circle, but nowhere near access on there, and kind of nestled at the back of the site between the play areas on there safely, if we can drop those kids on the back side of the site.
great. Sounds like she knows what she's doing. That's encouraging. So, all right, great. That's all the questions that I have. Thank you very much.
Ms. Frey?
Hey, thank you so much for the presentation. I have a few questions. On the design, you said that there is the little gray area or the green for 200 more, 2.5, 250, actually. That is where the planned growth, if we wanted to add to this site. Okay. And you're saying it's for 1,523 student capacity, but we're building 1,500 homes. They're building 1,500 homes out there. My concern is if you had 2 children to a household, that's 3,000 students. So I'm a little worried that maybe we're not thinking big enough. And I use Parish Community as the example. We might not have thought big enough then, because look what's going on out there, and we're adding on. So is that the only planned growth that we have?
No, you've also got Rye Ranch that's happening out on the east. That's another elementary school site. So
I mean this site here.
No, not on that site.
This-
That's only a 40 acre, but that's on the map that I've distributed. You'll see where Rye Ranch Elementary School is on there as well, and that's going to be an additional 965 elementary school students.
Okay. So you're saying the 1,500 homes that are being built who will populate this school and the other school will be all encompassed of that community? Is that what is that the idea? I want to make sure I'm,
Well, we'll have to go through the rezoning, because you also have Gullah
Right.
in close proximity, so, but between the three, I mean, when the student generation rate, you're close. I mean, at 40 acres though, we really couldn't put another campus on this, and we basically maximized it with the potential of almost having 1,000, if you add that 250, you'll have 1,000 elementary students, and that's getting pretty large for an elementary school, and then on top of that, you've got 750 middle school students as well. So over a 40-acre site, this is kind
Okay.
of optimizing what you can do design-wise.
okay, that leads me to my next concern. You said 1,000 elementary students. They're going to end up in the middle school as well, but they're gonna, you think, feather out to 2 different schools? Is that the concept here? Maybe I'm asking the hard questions. Right.
I wasn't planning on being part of the presentation.
Well, thank you for being here.
Let me see if I can help or confuse.
Right, yeah.
So I heard you say 2 students per household. We just did an impact fee study, and what we did was we looked at all the census data, we looked at households throughout the county, and from memory, I'm crossing my fingers here, but we were like 0.187 students per household. So it's a lot less than what you're thinking. I could be off a little bit, but it's not more than 0.2 of a student per household. So again, it's a lot less. And the reason that you have more elementary students in this school is that you got to think about it. You've got PK through 5th grade, so you're really accommodating, what, 6, 7 grades there, and they go into 3 grades in middle. So it just, those filter into that middle. That's why you have so many more elementary.
I understand the idea of how many elementary, but if we were just, the concept was they're gonna be at this one campus for 10 years. So if you have this many elementary going up into the middle, I get it, okay. This would even, I mean, this is 64. We're talking about Highway 64. They're putting, right, and they're putting in a lot of turnabouts in it. Big turnabouts out there, roundabouts, that's the word, I'm sorry. So that just, to Mr. Tatum's argument about transportation, of maybe between this school and the next build, there should be plans or ideas about a bus hub, instead of, I mean, that's an awful long way out to be coming all the way to Matsky. So that would be one thing. And to your presentation, right turns. So as fast as they can turn right, they're gonna get off into the car loop. And I'm impressed that you can get 1,497 cars queued up. That's, yeah, that's huge. That really is huge, because there's, going by Johnson, I know all of us have been down through there, just trying to get through Johnson. And then I feel so bad for the parents, because there's, you know, they've been in line to get into the car lane, then they're in line to get out after they're in. So it's kind of hard there. So I'm glad you're forward thinking on that. And then on the design, I talked to Mr. Rinaldi about this. I'm not one for negative space. I'm just like, okay, whatever space is way up here, we're gonna have to maintain that. I think the concept is nice, but the angle, I'm looking at students walking in your design presentation, going right underneath where it's gonna be a lot of rain runoff. So that would be the only thing. I'm sure there's probably site design that I don't know about that would manage all of that. I think the concept's really nice. I like the design, but I'm not a big fan of the negative space that's in the design. but I'm just one person, and that's just mine. But so you're thinking in timeline as going from where we are today, I mean, we started back in May, to be honest, all the way to spring semester is January 2026. Is that correct?
Yeah, we would be
Or-
complete for that spring semester.
It would be,
Beginning of December.
but we, so would we be putting students in there at any time before that now? We had to,
Probably not. At that point, they would be staffing the middle school side, so we
Okay.
probably wouldn't start until August of 26 on the middle school side. But the key is to get the relief off gullet by August of 25.
and the inhale, okay, yeah, okay. Well, I want to say I'm a big fan of a K through 8. I think that looks like a big price tag, but if we were building 2 individual schools, it would probably be 30% more, if not more than that. And even construction costs from now to when we're done. So I went toward Palmview, and I just like that whole concept of 10 years being at one location. It's great for the student, it's great for the parent, but I just want to put it out there to the public. You heard the word rezoning. It's in our future. When we're building, yeah, it's in our future. And with 1,500 homes going up out there, and that's only to around this school. So be ready, because it's got to happen. We're just outgrowing our community, to be honest with you, and I just want to put it out there now so we don't take all the heat later all at once. So, but thank you, I do like the design, and we'll have to do a naming contest, I'm sure.
I look forward to having a mascot and a name.
Yep, okay.
Mr. Tatum?
Going back to the traffic, just a little bit, because I heard questions about Route 64. So that's a state route. We all know that. So how do we coordinate with the state or county, state? Just how do we, or are we doing that, and how do we go about doing that?
If you look at this site map right now, the top border there, that's State Road 64. So there is land between us and where our site is. So you're right. We will have some points of entry, but they're not contiguous to our property. So.
Okay. But getting people, and that's a 60-mile, the speed limit there is 60 miles an hour. So, I see you doing this, so how do we think now about, do we slow people down? Do we need a traffic light there? Do we start coordinating with the state to build a bigger turn lane? I don't know. What do we do?
We'll start working with the state. There still is a lot of development going on here. What this site map is fairly old. They actually have a boulevard that is 2-lane with a median and 2-lane as well. So they've already started to improve that area the developer has for the home sites.
Okay. And then with the state, how are we working at all with them to think
Well,
about?
I mean, we'll talk with the state, but us being so far removed from SR 64, we don't think we're going to have to do a decel lane or anything like that. And if so, what needs to be done is for the development of decel lane needs to go in there. So
Okay.
we'll work with them and figure out what they're requiring the developer to do as well.
Because apparently, at least as I read in the newspaper and the Observer particularly, that the 70 and 64, there are accidents along that road because of the speed, right? And so they're putting in these roundabouts to try and slow people down. And I'm just envisioning people turning off 64 to get down into the entrance there. Anyway, that's why we pay you the big bucks, Mr. Rinaldi, to think about these things. But seriously, let's just really keep all these things in mind so that the traffic situation is really ready to go. So.
Let me ask you this: is that in our control? Is my question.
It's not in our control, but when they're making the requirements of what the developer needs to do, since we are a property owner in close proximity, we will have a voice and know what they're planning and make some recommendations if there's ways to help us out.
Okay. Ms. Foreman?
Yeah,
I'm done, yes.
Would you please address the impact that the racetrack might have on the school in terms of noise, additional traffic?
For this particular site, the racetrack is over 2.5 miles away, so there won't be any noise associated with that. Now, I believe, where'd Mike go? Did he? There was another parcel that we were looking at that was in closer proximity to the racetrack, correct? Yeah, yeah. So this isn't the site that we were analyzing for the racetrack. It's another elementary site further down, SR 64.
Okay, so we're
Yeah,
not going to have any schools closer than this one to the racetrack?
No, there is a possibility. We're working with a developer. We're not under contract at this point, but we have been talking with a developer about another parcel that is closer to the racetrack.
How far?
Right next.
How far?
Just,
We actually are under contract.
We
Yeah.
did get under contract?
Yes.
Okay.
We've been under contract for approximately a year. That site is, I want to say, I'm going from memory here, 700 or 800 yards. And
ooh,
I can tell you that I've had a deputy superintendent and 2 board members out there because they had concerns, and I think they could probably speak for themselves, but we were out there listening, and board members are separated in case the media's watching.
That's right.
By 100 yards, but we were able to have some very nice conversations
okay.
during.
So you were there
during the
when,
event.
when something was going
Yes.
on at the track?
Yes. And there's also going to be a 25-foot berm and wall put up between the racetrack and the school site by the developer.
All right.
Okay.
So that kind of, you're going to have 2 schools awfully close to each other, 2 elementary schools, so we'll be able to, it's growing out there. Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask, and this is of the design, the administration building, when parents come in, they have kids maybe perhaps in the middle school side, students on the elementary side. Are they two, it's one administration building, and then they go off in 2 different directions?
You do have a single administration building and a single front office in there for check-in and check-out, and then there are, like I said, satellite administrative offices within each of those wings that house the guidance counselors and the support specialists within that. But yes, parents would come into that single point at that front desk and meet with AP, your principal, everybody is sitting right there. I know from an administration standpoint, there's been some conversation of, depending on if a principal comes in, how the AP and that is distributed across the campus, and we've kind of allocated for space like that. But yes, parents will come in and meet with a single point of contact there. We've seen it at both distributed, and they tend to operate as 2 separate schools rather than one, and so this is really sort of best practices. We're putting them in a single point of administration rather than having them sort of separated administrations. You get a lot more collaboration and curriculum focus when they're under one roof.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Ms.
Yeah.
Dr. Weissel?
I'll wait until the board's done.
Okay.
Yeah. I did go out to the site by the track, and I have been out to the track. I actually have a friend that races on that track. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And we were out there when there were activities. Of course, we're not talking about that site today, but yeah, there was a time we could all go out and see the site and all of that. So this is going to be a couple miles away. But to my earlier question, 1,500 homes, all, and I would almost argue a 0.2 of a student. Somebody would say, how do you get 0.2 of a student? But I think we're going to fill that up pretty fast, both sites actually. What else? Oh, that was all I wanted to make, was the point that we did go out and look at the site by the track. And to Mr. Tatum's point, we're gonna have 2 schools right there on the highway. And working with the county and the developers and the state, we need to make sure that we do everything possible for safety. And that's the whole thing. It's all about traffic flow, and I know you guys do all the studies and all of that, but I don't want us to have that story on the front page that a student was, and I know that this is gonna end up being golf cart community like out south of here. So I think it's gonna be all tight-knit community type thing, but I still wanna make sure that we hammer that home, that the developer and/or county or state needs to work with us while we're doing both of these sites, because both of these sites are coming. And I'm afraid for the traffic too. So,
Could I just clarify that point two, or point 187, I think I said, but that is a countywide average for all types of dwelling units, all sizes of dwelling units. So you're going to have anomalies. You're going to have 55-plus communities with no kids. You're going to have residential areas that have a significant number of kids, but countywide it's like 0.187. This one I suspect will be a little bit higher, but we're not seeing 2 students per dwelling on throughout the county. We're not seeing that anywhere really. Okay. So I just wanted to make you aware of that, and I'll leave it at that.
that's great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Weissong.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a couple of follow-up points to the excellent presentation. I'm excited for this design, and again, there's really an opportunity to think differently when you're doing a K-8 from the ground up. So first, there were a couple of references to attendance boundaries, and just keep in mind that when you're putting in a K-8, you have an elementary impact, a middle impact. So there's an opportunity to think differently. And the traditional approach is you move lines around, but there may be some other innovative things that we can do. And certainly we're not the first district to experience growth and then multiple school types in close proximity. So there are models out there, and I think we'll use the coming months to study those so that when it is time to have that conversation, we can bring you multiple options and to ensure we're thinking creatively. The second piece is there was some talk about the administrative structure, and what I've been talking with the leadership team a little bit about is that because this will be our first ground up K-8, very different from when you're converting an existing facility, likely I will bring you a principal recommendation earlier than perhaps you would do for other types of schools. So anticipate perhaps principal selection 12 months out from the opening of the school so that founding principal really has time to make thoughtful decisions in partnership with the operations team and the process so that we get this as right as we can, but that we also do a good job documenting lessons learned, because this likely won't be our only ground up K-8. So that will likely look a little bit different. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Second report presentation item is the 24-25 academic calendar. Dr. Breslin.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Weissong. I'm here to present the 24-25 academic calendar process and the options that we have that we would love feedback on from our community. So the academic calendar purpose, as you see here, provides the information, as we know, to all of our parents, students, entire community staff on key dates. And here's some examples of those key dates that you'll see on the 2 options that you'll see presented. The academic calendar committee members are comprised of parents, community members, representation from the MEA. We have principals representing elementary, middle, and high. And then the following departments are also all present in the meetings as we look at different calendar options. And that process also entails looking at surrounding school districts and how their calendars are laid out. So this is part of our school board policy 8210, which was put into place in July of 2017, and this is directly the language from that policy. And you'll see as we go through the presentation a timeline, and so and that comes towards the end. It's not a very long presentation, but at the conclusion of that timeline, the superintendent will make a recommendation to the board for the calendar. And at that point, that will be in the December board meeting. You'll have one calendar presented with the superintendent's recommendation. Per policy, we need 180 days for students, 196 days of employment for teachers. We cannot open the student school year prior to August 10th, and that's based on statute. And then the school year is divided into 2 semesters approximately equal in length. So I'm going to give you a brief rundown here, but you'll see a comparison between the differences between option A and option B on a later slide. So things you're going to look for into the calendars. The district in-service days. Of course, those are our days that we offer staff professional development, and you'll see those typically at the beginning of the school year and then a mid-year date. Professional learning early release days, as stated, in the past 2 years, it is the same, continuing for these options. We have a date in the fall, a date in the spring. Teachers are able to take part in professional learning, and some of that is including compliance training as well. Teachers would return in January, followed by students. Record days are denoted as also required per our teacher contract. Spring break, you'll see, is the same for both calendars, and that does align with typical spring break time for the surrounding counties in our state. Last day for students, and then the record day finalizing the school year. And then you'll have this visual representation of option A. You'll see noted on the side of each month are the days. If you look at our current school year calendar on our website, you don't see those numbers on the side. We do remove those, but that's just so you can see exactly how the days are added up and accounted for. And then once the final calendar is approved, a clean version without those side numbers are published on our district website. B, you'll see the same days marked. And I won't go through all of these again. I'll just show you the comparison between what we're really looking at and seeking public feedback on between the 2 options. And again, the visual representation. And the day counts. And what you'll notice here is that option A has 46 days in quarter 3 and 47 quarter 4, and you see an opposite in option B. We do have more semester days in semester 1, and the reason for that is that we are, having to start on that August 12th date, where August 10th falls this year on a weekend, which makes it a little bit more complicated, and the desire to finish this semester before we go into that winter break. And so you have that little discrepancy, but we do meet seat hours as required, and in fact, we exceed seat hours. For K-3 instruction, you need 720 hours of instruction. Middle school and high school, you need 900 hours per year, and we exceed that for both areas. And then here you will see the difference between the A and B calendar. So here's the big difference, is when teachers return from break. So you're looking at semester 2. In option A, teachers return on January 6th, whereas option B, they return January 3rd. And that's the return for that record day, and then the professional development day, the in-service day. Students return on option A on January 8th, whereas option B, January 7th. And then the difference where you make up those days would be the end of the year, whereas one, you finish the last day for students a little earlier, and the second one a little bit later, actually finishing that last day for teachers in June. And so what the calendar committee does is they meet and review. At one point we had 4 different versions floating around, and the committee gets input and narrows it down to 2, which we bring forth to the public for that feedback. And so at the conclusion of this board meeting presentation this week, we will post on our hot topics and present to SAC meetings and everywhere we can these calendar options with a link on our school district website for any and all public comment. We ask schools to share this with families, and we try to get as many comments as we can. And we bring those forth to Dr. Wysong and team for review for that final recommendation that we'll bring forward in December. We'll share comments as relevant, and then the final calendar for hopefully your board approval at that time. So that concludes the presentation. Are there any specific questions to option A or B?
We do have a couple board members lit up. Ms.
Sure.
Messenger?
Mine wasn't specific to A or B, but more of an overarching question of, in years past, we did more than 1 year at a time. Why is there only 1 year this time?
So in years past, we it hasn't always been that way. 2 years ago, we did the 2 years. This fall, we did in order to expedite it, because normally we start the process earlier, but with the change in superintendent, there was a request from the former superintendent to wait for the new superintendent is seated. So we are doing one in the fall. We will bring the group back to have one in the spring, so that hopefully, if all goes well, you'll have 2 calendars within this year approved, just not at the exact same moment.
Okay. With the intention then to continue to do 2 years at a time?
Depending on how the superintendent would like to move forward after that.
Okay.
I think it's preferable to have it out over a year ahead of time.
Yeah.
And so that's helpful to families.
Yeah, right. I think that's some of the feedback I've gotten is, normally it is out, and I understand why it's not out as early, and I appreciate getting it done as.
Right.
But I do think there's something to at least doing more than 1 year at a time, because families can plan a vacation further out or other things like that. I mean, there's a real benefit to that.
Absolutely.
Specifically about either one of these, I think there's positives to both, and I think there's negatives to both. So I guess it'll be interesting what kind of feedback you get, because I'm trying to think as a teacher, would I have rather come back earlier in January to be done earlier in May or not? Because I either get 2 weeks at Christmas or I don't. But then I think about if you're not getting the full 2 weeks, but it's a record day, that isn't so bad.
That is not so bad.
Right. Record day's all right. It's not a professional development. It's a record day. I could do that, right? The district in services then that Monday. But then I also think about, in the past, we've gotten feedback from parents that they like when they're coming back from a break to start on a Monday because of childcare needs, right? So I do understand that as well. So I guess it'll be really interesting to see which one we get, what comes before us as a recommendation and the feedback that you get. And I hope that, you take it all in, and whatever comes before us is based on all the feedback from all those different parties, because I could see it going either way on this. So
I agree. There's never a perfect plan. We try to build the best option for student learning and for our staff.
And I think pretty much every year, no matter what, once we put it out there, here's the final one and we just voted on it, that's when you get all of the feedback after we voted on it.
Yeah.
Even though I can say, but we've had it out, I'll post it on social media. I'll send it to whomever. I keep a list of people that contact me asking about the calendar, and I say, hey, as soon as I have it, I will send it to you. And I've already done that. Once it got posted, I said, let me send it to you. I sent it to them.
Right.
So I want your feedback. We want it.
We absolutely.
Prior to the vote is ideal.
Prior to the vote.
Yes.
Yes, that is
Thank
how
you.
we hope it goes.
I agreed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Foreman?
Yeah, when I looked at this, it appeared to me, that the impact is greater on the teachers than it is on the families. Kids are going to come back either on a Monday or a Tuesday, but you could have teachers having to come in on Friday, so they're cutting they lose the benefit of the weekend after holiday break. But then they've got to come, do they have to come back on June 2nd after a weekend, and so I would love to see us really concentrate on getting the feedback isolated and as complete as we can from our staff.
Yes,
You know, that would have the biggest bearing on how, which I would prefer, so,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Am I reading something wrong? Coming back on January, because you both have said Mondays. Neither option is students coming back on a Monday.
I'm talking about.
One option, you talking about teachers? I thought you said students, because one option is students come back on Tuesday,
Yeah.
other one's a Wednesday,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
So,
that is right.
me as a former, like if it's teaching, I would decide B. I'm B. I mean, I want to. For us to ask them to come back another day after the weekend is kind of a.
Yeah.
But
Right.
whatever they decide, it is what it is. Ms. Spray.
Is the feedback that you get from parents to teachers, do you have those different kind of categories that the teacher might prefer version A over B? Or do you get that kind of feedback? I mean, can you see that?
We'll be able to see that. We'll be able to see whether it's from a staff member or from a parent. If it's just from a community member, I mean, they can also provide feedback. So yes, we can see that.
Okay, because when I'm looking at this, I can just hear somebody say, why are you bringing teachers back on June 2nd? And right after a holiday weekend?
Right.
That's the struggle for me that I see with version A. I'm more, let's get them done. Let's be done with it with version B. I'm not in a classroom every day, and I'm not driving a student to the school either. So to me, if the teachers can be done in May with a weekend ahead of them, I think that would be the better choice. But again, this is going to be selected by not only the feedback that we're getting. I want people to give us feedback because this is basically your school calendar. It is not our calendar, it's their calendar. So I hope that everyone that's out there in TV land is listening to this, and if not, anybody here starts sharing this information as well. And I have been asked about the calendar. So it was more, I wanted to give my input and ask that question, could you actually, do different segments of that? So, yeah, I can see the differences, and I can see where people would favor one over the other.
Right, exactly.
It takes a lot of work to manage all that, I'm sure. I mean, you gotta divide up, 180 days, and you
Right.
have so much time to pack it in. So I wanna say thank you for your presentation and the hard work that you put into it.
Absolutely. And the committee members were fantastic.
Right.
They helped us arrive to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. I feel like this is a little bit easier one than the last 2 years ago. I remember we had a really good debate about days and versions. I mean, I
Yes.
think this one's pretty much cut and dry. I mean, other than obviously,
We're smooth,
1 or
and
2
hopefully
days.
the spring will run just as
Yeah.
smoothly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move to public comment, and then we'll take a quick recess after the public comment. Just FYI, everybody. So we're gonna move to public comment, item number 11, and we've got 4 for public comment. Remember, when you come up to the podium, above will be the time, and remember that it is board policy that we don't interact with the public comment as you're here. Some board members may discuss it at at the end of their board comments, or give you a call, or shoot you an email, or whatever. But our policy is not to comment here when you're presenting. So just wanted to make sure we knew that. First public comment is Michael Hartman, followed by Heather Felton. So Mr. Hartman, come on down.
You said this was regular public comment?
Yes, sir.
Michael Hartman for the record. I learned something new. I'm talking to TV land. Genesis 1:1 says, "In the beginning, God, who is the Spirit, created the heaven and the earth." Psalm 92 says, "Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever God had formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God." 2 Timothy 1:17, Now unto the King eternal, immortal, invisible, the only wise God, be honor and glory forever and ever. Amen. When this room was filled with people, we all shared something in common, air. It's all around us. So what exactly is air? It's a mixture of different gases. The air in our atmosphere is 78% nitrogen and 21% oxygen. We can't really see air. I can't hand it to you, but we know it's real. We can use air because we fly in air. We can compress it and use it for tools. We can feel a cool breeze, a warm breeze. Okay, but if you enter into a store and somebody drops a chemical odor, what happens to that air? We can't breathe it, so we have to get out of there. And there's another element that we can't see, but we're all impacted by it. It's called gravity. And that's what holds the atmosphere of our air to the earth. We all know that if you slip and trip, what's going to happen? You don't fly up in the air, you fall down. Romans 8:2 says, for the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus has made us free from the law of sin and death. We understand natural law, but we sometimes totally forget about the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus. Let me give you some of the fruits of the Spirit. It's love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Okay, we saw a lot of that tonight. Some of the works of the flesh, and we see this in our society, and it's disheartening to see it happen in this country. Adultery, fornication, uncleanliness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulation, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, and revelings. When I grew up, we didn't have this lawlessness. And so I commend all the board, the school board and everything that's going on, the way that we're trying to present a positive attitude. Mr. Choate had said that earlier when I spoke to him. So I just want to speak blessings on all of you, and I'm glad that I can talk to the TV audience.
Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Felton, followed by Betty Sales Rhodes.
Good evening.
Evening.
Two things. First, I'm really kind of disappointed in the calendar options. Teachers are going to get it stuck to them either way. They either lose 3 days of their break in winter to come back on a Friday and then have the weekend. So they lose that with their families because they also have families. And then in the end of the semester, if you go into June, there they are coming back after a holiday weekend. And I would like to ask that the district at some point try and figure out a way to work it better, because it really sticks it to the teachers more than anybody else. Second thing, I'm here today representing Defense of Democracy. It is a nonpartisan, nonprofit group. We advocate for legislators, educators, and administrators who will work to strengthen communities. We also advocate for public education systems that support and enhance our shared experiences regardless of religious beliefs, cultural background, and sexual orientation. We have members who are veterans, who are youth, who are librarians across the entire country. There are many, many chapters here in Florida at this time. Also, I would like to point out that we also speak for marginalized communities and try to be vocal activists for those people who are not able to speak. Today I am calling on the district, Dr. Weissong, and the board to see if we can find a way in which those of us in the community can petition to have a book reinstated. At this time, there is no such policy available in the school district. On going over the information provided on the school district's website, I know that according to the materials in district libraries and media centers that you have posted there, at minimum, the procedures must, and I'm not going to list all of them because I have 58 seconds, but you already know them. All right, at minimum, the procedures must include these things. There's nothing in there that says you cannot have a process in which we can reinstate a book. If there is an actual academic reason, an intellectual reason, a literary reason why a book should be available to our students that has been removed by a single petition, we as the community should also be able to voice our belief that the book should be brought back. We are also part of the community, and having books removed by a single person is limiting the parental choice of every parent in the school. That person has now made that decision for all of those parents that their child cannot have access. We need to keep that in mind as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rhodes? Followed by Merlina Parm.
I should have put it on my, when I sign up, I might go over like a minute, is I'm gonna get the budget. You can ask the board, could I go over a minute of what I need to come back, next month?
Did you sign up for something particularly
But
on the agenda item?
it's, no,
Okay.
it's a general comment,
comment?
yes,
Okay.
it is.
I'm gonna say 3 minutes. You don't have to start her time yet, but we're gonna keep you at 3 minutes, just because that's our policy.
I understand, but.
We'd love to have you back next time.
No, the next time, well, I'm gonna try to get it in all at one time, but the next time, I'm gonna ask for it because I really need it.
Okay.
Okay? All right, my name is Betty, Betty Sales Rose. I know it's been a long time, but we still fighting. Okay, my black skin is my heritage, and it's my gift from God for all mankind. Do not mistake my color that we are weak. We are not weak. My black skin is my pride. And the reason why I'm saying this, what do you all have for our kids here of color? What do you show? I think, Cindy, have you been over to any schools in Palmetto? What school you been to? None. Okay, we need that because all our kids are colored. Mr. Dye don't look like that. I'm telling the truth. We want our kids to learn, and our kids can learn. And I hope, and I got to say this, I hope the new superintendent is like, don't have the system like the old ones did. I cover your back, you cover mine. Old good boy system. We don't need that. We're here to educate our kids. Now, I have one more question, and I'm very upset behind it. You got to pay to look at a video. And that video will show you that somebody's lying on a kid. Now, I don't know what y'all policy is, but y'all need to go back to the drawing board. Yes, I have the $40. That's why some people of color can't rescue their kids because some of them do not have the money to pay to see that video. And so y'all need to change our policy because it is wrong. It's really wrong. And I had a problem today, and it may cost more, but I'm gonna do it. If I must have to see a lawyer, because see, that's one thing, when I raise my grandkids, if they do something, they're gonna say yes. If they didn't do anything, no, and they not disrespectful. And I had, 15 to go through the system. Athletic, they play sports for you and everything. But when it come time for our kids, you gotta either put them in ISS or suspend them. Now, if it was a white kid that came in there to call their parents on the phone, that kid wouldn't have got no defiance. But when a black kid come in to tell their parents what is going on, that's defiance. And I'm getting sick of it. And y'all need to do something about it. Y'all knew, Tater, you know I know you too. And I'm telling you all, Superintendent, I'm glad you're here, but I think you need to get your board to get together on this issue here in this school with minority kids. I just say people of color. We should be treated just like everybody else here in this school system. Nobody better. See, I work every day, and when my grandkids dress, they dress. Yeah, because, listen, that's what we did coming through the family of the sales family. So what I'm trying to say, you all need to treat our kids right. We don't have no dumb black kids in this school. It's because some of the teachers don't have the time to teach our kids. We don't have them here. You got to learn. You got a kid that maybe in between, you help that kid. You help him, but he could get stronger.
Ms. Rhodes, that's your 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you, but I will be back. I will be back. Thank you.
We hold the applause, hold the applause, hold the applause. Thanks. Merlina Parm.
Can I say one thing? I won't be here when y'all have y'all, say so, but my email is in the email because I got to go. Oh, she on, okay. Take her to practice.
We'll be here. And whether they say something or not, we'll be here.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Merlina Parm. I am here to speak on LMA, because yes, we haven't forgotten. A lot of you are new here. There are some of you that have been here. There are some that there were promises made, and we helped vote to get them in here, only just to be disgusted, but I digress, that's whatever. Anyway, we do have a new superintendent. Hello, and thank you, and welcome. A lot of things that weren't done by our previous board members, I would like to expand the opportunity for you and this new board to look into some of the things that were done to the school and to those students. There were lives that were ruined, and some of the people that helped ruin those lives have gone on with no type of consequences for the outright disgusting things that they did. Because at the end of the day, it involved our children. And truth be told, there hadn't been, and I don't think there will ever be, if you were to ever look over what the program entailed for that school, it was a phenomenal school. And to have that taken away from our students, it's just disgusting. If you think about it, a lot of the programs that school had in place for minority children of color, and it's not a black or white thing, it is what it is. That's what Palmetto entails, minority students. The opportunity that they were given was opportunity that financially they would probably never have been given that opportunity. A lot of the schools still don't even have some of the programs that school had. And again, I'm just asking if you guys, because there are some fresh eyes, there are some fresh ears. A lot of people know about it, but I'm just asking if you have a heart, if you could all just put aside whatever negative things that you may have heard and look at it with a fresh pair of eyes and some fresh ears, and just, that's all I'm asking, because I think the school and those students in particularly deserved way more than what they were given. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our public comment. We're going to take a recess, and we will reconvene at 7 p.m. All right, welcome back from that quick recess. We are now into item number 12 on the agenda, the consent items. Superintendent Weissong.
Chairman, I recommend approval of the consent agenda for October 24th, 2023.
So moved.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and cast
Oh, I'm sorry.
our votes for the approval of the consent
Sorry, it didn't grab the mover and the seconder.
items.
You want me to hit motion again? Motion?
Seconder.
There we go. And consent items approved 5-0.
Is this a good time to speak or not? I'm just wanting to say, I want people to look at that this is the start of Palma Solar. So it's going to be.
For the consent items?
Yes, it was under consent.
Yeah, you
I
can
just
talk
wanted-
about it.
Yeah.
During your board
yeah,
comments.
okay.
We skip down to item number 15, new business, non-consent items. Item number 1, Superintendent Weissong.
Thank you. I recommend approval to purchase Panorama Education number 24-0076-RG, estimated in the amount of $130,000.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. So, Dr. Weissong, if you want to elaborate to what this item is?
Thank you, Chairman. This is the renewal of an existing agreement. This is a survey platform that allows us to survey students and parents related to their experience at their school or with the school district. And Mr. Chapman is available for any specific questions regarding implementation.
Okay, thank you. We do have a board member lit up to speak, Mr. Tatum.
Hello, Dr. Weissong. I'll probably address this to you. So as we are going, you and I have had recent conversations about the fact that our ESSER money is going to be going away. And so I'm formulating my question in my mind as I'm seeing this, and I had thought about it in the past. I guess what I'm saying is, is there a process where you're thinking through things that I would call nice to have and things that we really need to have, you know, and we might have been in an era of nice to have, but we might be getting into an era of need to have, and how are you processing that in your mind now and kind of rethinking maybe nice to have, really need to have, so.
Thank you, Mr. Tatum. The timing of your question is ironic. I spent all afternoon with the leadership team or members of the team working through budget updates, and we spent about an hour talking about ESSER this afternoon and that glide path out. And really at this point, it's a matter of working through line by line through that budget to do exactly what you said, identify what is required or was being done before from another funding source that now needs to go back to the general fund or a different funding source, and then what needs further conversation or a data review to determine whether it needs to continue or not, and that includes both personnel and programs, and then really it's a matter of going through that process and then saying, okay, if these items are essential, what's the total bill? How much of that has to go into the general fund? And then the conversation is what's going to come out so that next July we bring the board a fiscally sound budget plan. So those conversations for next year are already underway.
Thank you. And the reason I bring that up is just to educate the public a little bit. When you hear the words ESSER, what that basically means is money that was given out by the federal government to school systems around the country to boost their bottom line during what we might call the COVID era. That money will now be going away starting in September of 24, so less than a year from now, in the fiscal year which starts 1 July 24 and 25. Would it be correct to say, if I remember the number right, that over the 4 years that we've been getting that money, it's about $100 million, not per year, but over those 4 years, that number seems to ring. You weren't here, I know, but that seems to be a number that was close, which on average, then if you split that out, $25 million a year, maybe we spend a little more in one year, maybe a little less in another year. But just so the public knows that money is going away, it won't be available to us anymore. We are going through a budget process to do what I was talking about, what would be nice to have and what we need to have. And so our fiscal resources will be constrained a little bit after that's gone. So, and there will also potentially have to be some personnel adjustments, let's say, because that's just the way this is. And when I look at things like this, I have to trust you all, and I do. I know you're trying to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money, that when something like this comes up, do we need a survey program? I don't know, maybe. But if I sit down and talk to you about it, and that you put it on the agenda like this, that you've put it through that process, but nice to have, need to have, and that we're doing that. But it sounds like we are. I kind of knew we were. I know you and I know your staff, and they're professional and they're doing the right thing. To some degree, am asking this question so that the public is aware of that type of thing is going on. We're trying to be good stewards of taxpayers' money. We are going to have somewhat of a decline in revenue, and that the staff of the school system is being responsible with the resources that we're going to have left and putting them through a matrix to make sure that we are going to be fiscally sound. So thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Ms. Frey?
Okay. I kind of look at it this.
Dr. Weissong didn't have anything. He looked like he wanted to add something.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's right, Chairman. Yes, thank you, Mr. Tatum. I'll just add the ESSER pandemic funding really came in 3 waves. The first wave was the smallest. The second was larger. The third was the largest pot of money. And so spending is probably higher in the later years than in the early years. But you're absolutely right. We've known since the funding was given out that the end point was September 30th of 24. And so, that end is coming, and so you're correct that services have to be adjusted, based on less revenue coming in next year. This particular contract is necessary because we made some grant related commitments related to surveying students about their experience at school. And so we'll look at the glide path out of those grants, and then also generally have a conversation about, and I think this goes to the ongoing dialogue about how do we engage with families differently than we have before. And so it may be that we need a survey tool or a two-way communication tool. So we're looking at a variety of options. But you're correct that down the road, within the next few months, we'll have to make some decisions about what's staying and what's not going to be renewed.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Brown?
Okay. I know during this particular agenda item, I had questions on the survey is not just a generic survey that is sent out. It's actual, we build the questions that are in that survey. I want to, Mr. Chapman, if you could come up and explain that to us and the public, that this is not just a generic box of, we're going to throw these out to our students. We actually have staff here that will be vetting those questions and actually creating them. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, that's correct. The questions are, we've actually been using these surveys for the last 3 years based on a federal grant to look at school climate. It's part of the threat management system, asking students, you're bullied at school, do you feel safe at school? Questions like that, very high level kind of generic questions that we've created about a dozen or so questions, and we've asked the same ones. So as the students, is it matriculate or matriculate? I've never figured that out. But as they go from grade to grade to grade, probably would have learned that if I went grade to grade to grade. But they, you see our work in our schools having an effect on the students. You know, are they feeling safer? Are they feeling less bullied? Are they, you know, speaking up and saying things if they, you know, see something that shouldn't belong in school? So that's a way to measure school climate, and if things are getting better. That's what our whole threat management, our whole counseling system is based on. So we create the questions. They're approved all the way up to, you know, all the way up the chain to the top level of the superintendent, and then they're administered. And Panorama is really just the platform that holds the data from all these years, so that you can see how things have gotten better at a school when it comes to the school climate.
Okay. We're surveying the students, but are we surveying teachers at all? And exit surveys? I know that's a huge thing for me, is if a teacher or any staff really is leaving, is there an exit survey built into this that we can see what the climate of our, to be employed in Manatee?
Yes, we do. We do use a exit survey. It's on the, again, we created the questions. We store that data on the Panorama platform, but we send that survey out to employees who are leaving us for whatever reason, retirement or for whatever reason, and it's up to them to fill out that survey. You know, we send it on their personal email account so that they have a way to respond, you know, in due time.
But it's not a requirement.
At this time, it's not a requirement.
Okay.
And with this, we can, you know, we haven't surveyed probably in a while. I think probably in a year or so. You know, and I think we'd like to survey parents and the community about you know, issues that are affecting the community and schools, and this is a way to do that. And in the past, I would come to the board and present those results, and we'd kind of work through that in a workshop and kind of show what are parents, you know, thinking and hearing out there in the
Is
community.
that something you have from prior years that we could workshop? I know I did ask, you know, how many surveys have been sent out. I mean, to Mr. Taven's point about the paper tutor. Okay, if it's $514,000 and only 10 students, then that's a big price tag.
Right.
All right, same thing here. How many surveys have we done? How many have responded to those surveys? And are we getting, I know data collecting is data collecting, but if we're not doing anything with that data or workshopping it, it's just money thrown out in the air. And I'm in the same mindset. We're losing a lot of funding. There's gonna have to be some things cut. And, you know, surveying how a student is doing, if they feel this way from 3rd grade to 5th grade, and or any other things like that. We don't have any data like that
Yeah, it's a good question. So we, you know, until you all hopefully approve this contract, then we will then administer the surveys. We have yet to do that.
I'm asking from prior years. You
Yes,
said
we
that
have.
We've had this for
Yep, we
2
have all that data, and that data is, you know, part of what, you know, under Dr. Breslin's division, under curriculum instruction, that's what counselors, social workers, our threat management teams look at when they start to assess the climate of a school and what's going on in that school.
So this could be not targeted, I don't want to use that word. This could be narrowed down to what school would have the most problems?
Well,
maybe even if you did a survey.
Yeah, so this is part of a federal grant that we got 3 years ago. I think it was like a $1.5 million grant. So a majority of the funding that's for this contract a majority of the payment for this contract is coming from that federal grant. And that grant sunsets next year, next September, matter of fact, 30th. So this finishes that grant. And it is It is data that a teacher or a principal would use to, figure out, how to better educate that child. You look and you see if there's some signs that the child is under stress or is getting bullied, things like that, and then that's how our teams of experts, counselors, and social workers then do their work to help that teacher and help that school so that child can be better prepared to learn.
Okay, so you said that this was a 3-year grant, and this is basically the tail end of that grant, from
Right.
what I'm picking up from you, and that it will sunset a year, basically about a year from now. Okay, so this might be one of those things that might need to be looked at next year after all of the ESSERs are gone, so.
Right.
Okay, so it's almost, we have to approve it before we get any stats from last year or the year before, but I'm guessing the prior board workshopped all of those results from that.
Right.
Okay, all right. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Tatum?
Just for surveys in general, can you kind of talk to us about the guardrails that are put in place to make sure that, if I remember the law correctly, in the sense that there are guardrails that have been put in place legally so that only certain surveys can be given, parents have to give their permission for some. Can you talk to us a little bit about and
Yeah.
how that might affect these surveys at all?
Yeah, we obviously follow state statute. And right now, currently, you need parent consent for a survey to provide a child in K through 3. And then in the later grades, 4 through 12, we as a school district can administer these type of climate surveys to students. And then we make sure, obviously, both on the curriculum side, on the legal side, that those questions and surveys obviously fit, Florida statute and Department of Education guidelines. And these type of surveys, type of school climate work is very much encouraged by the Department of Education. I mean, this is a way to really figure out what the environment of that school is. Is it really doing well in its learning environment? That's really what is encouraged to do with these surveys. And these surveys are always available, upon request for a parent or anybody to see.
Okay. And where under the financial impact portion of this item, it says the cost to implement this agenda item will not exceed $130,000. The funding source for this expenditure is various federal grants and is in the approved budget for 2023-2024. So again, help educate me a little bit. Does that mean that we got a federal grant for something and it's kind of our discretion what we spend it on, and this Panorama contract falls within the definition of things we're allowed to spend that federal grant on, or did we get the grant specifically to implement this program?
Right, good question. So the grant is a think of it as a larger project of school climate, and one way to measure school climate are these surveys. So it's a piece of that larger project, and so yes, we can the federal government allows you to use that grant money for a survey device to get that data to work on that larger project. And it's been I think it was a $1.3 or $1.5 million grant over the last 3 years, and it sunsets next September. So this project will end this school year essentially. So to your point, it's going to be sunsetting no matter what. Yeah. And then as a team, under Mr. Jensen's leadership, starting to talk about next steps and to your point, what do we do next to measure school climate and kind of, that's under that MTSS umbrella that maybe we've talked about before. So all that's kind of being now discussed of how we where we go next with that.
So would this be considered part of ESSER money, or is this as a separate grant? No.
Yeah, there's no ESSER money. I don't think there's. I think the part of it is the ESSER money. The majority of it's from the federal grant. The rest is from ESSER.
Okay. Which we have to kind of draw down those accounts to zero anyway.
Right, and this will end at the same time ESSER ends.
Okay. So what's interesting about the funding, at least as far as the grant goes, is if you don't get the grant, you don't spend the money. You get the grant, you spend the money. Is that kind of true? Or let's say that we'd failed to get this grant, like we wrote the grant up and we sent it up to the DOE, federal DOE, and they said no. So would we go out and do this still, or what?
I think we would find a way to survey parents and students. We would still need a mechanism to do that.
Okay.
You know, this is a widely used service across Florida. So I don't know if we would, you know, use Panorama, but they're one of the leading, if not the leading, you know, group that does this in the state of Florida. So.
And in our total budget numbers, and Ms. Sellers, you can weigh in on this if I don't say this correctly, is that grants are included, like when you see that $1.36 billion budget, which is what this fiscal 23-24 year is, that includes an estimate of spending grant money that we are getting. Is that true or not
Yes.
true?
Yeah, and it fits into one of those categories, you know, that you know, you need Rachel's degrees to kind of figure out, but yes, it's one of those.
Lots of money.
Right, right. The categorized, the uncategorized, all those buckets that we all learn about to fits that into that $1.3 billion budget.
Right, and then we write grants, and some we get, and some we don't. I assume is that true?
That's correct. Yep, yep.
It's an interesting. It's not a continually. So I guess some grants come continually, annually, on a regular basis, and some ebb and flow, so to speak.
Yes, some get reduced, some right.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just educating myself and hopefully even the public a little bit too on another fund. It's not just all tax money from the state of Florida. Like we are getting federal grants for different programs, and they ebb and they flow, and then we get them, and we got to spend the money. And
I think you can see that on our website. If you go to the budget tab on our website and look at our 2023-2024 budget, you can, and you know, there's several pages, but it will show you a little bit about what's, you know, federal, state, where all those kind of buckets of money fit. But we do receive a large amount of federal money.
Okay, great.
Because we all pay federal taxes, right?
We do.
So we
That's a
are
good
getting
point
our
too,
fair
yeah.
share, hopefully.
There you go.
To run our schools.
Okay, that was education for me, and hopefully people that are fascinated by that stuff watching in TV land now are a little better educated too. So thank you, Ms. Sellers. That's all I had. Thank you.
Norman?
Yeah, our cover sheet states that the surveys are provided to parents, and parents can opt out. So do these surveys automatically go out to the parents so that they can see them and then make their decision if they want to opt out, or do they have to request it?
We actually don't survey K through 3 in this particular climate situation. The surveys 4 through 12 are administered to students. We notify parents that we're going to do that. Schools notify parents that is going to happen. And if they'd like a copy of the survey, the school will provide it to them.
Okay.
And that's worked very well over the last 3 years.
So they're notified ahead of time. That's fine. Okay. What actions did we take or steps did we take to ensure that the data is protected, student data is protected?
Yeah, and these are good questions. So what's attached, and I may ask Ms. DiAgostino to weigh in, what's also attached to this board work, and Scott Hansen's here, our Chief Technology Officer, what's attached to the board work is our data sharing agreement. That is obviously an agreement that we use with you know, almost every vendor, because we're usually pretty much doing data with almost every vendor. That data sharing agreement is in there with Panorama. One thing we'd like for the board to weigh in on is to and you'll see it in the cover sheet there in the executive summary is to authorize the superintendent or his designee to sign these data sharing agreements with vendors as we you know, contract with all kinds of people, you know, of sources. So instead of always bringing pretty much the same data sharing agreement with you know, with every contract, The idea is if you approve this data sharing agreement and approve that the superintendent or his designee can sign this data sharing agreement, then that would prevent a little less work in bringing these data sharing agreements to the board. Did I have that right, Ms. Stagg?
Well, I wouldn't refer to it as a sharing agreement. I would call it a data privacy agreement, because that's really what the agreement entails. It's their responsibility to maintain the privacy of the data we share with them pursuant to their need to perform the surveys, and their responsibility to keep that data private and comply with state and federal law regarding privacy concerns. So that's the only caveat that I would add.
There are ways to evaluate the strength of their security and their ability to maintain privacy and keep from getting hacked. Do we did we check that on Panorama? Is that okay? I'm seeing a nod yes from Mr. Hanson.
Yeah, there's all this technical talk that I
Well, they get
talked to them
ranked,
about.
they get evaluated. There's the SOS2.
Right.
You know, all of that. So I just wanted to know what we have.
Yes, we have, maybe Scott can help me, but we have all the highest levels of agreements, but I'll let Scott weigh in on what that technical lingo is.
Good evening. So yes, we, as part of our process and as part of the new Florida Administrative Code and new statutes that took effect July 1, we also, as a school district, as part of our cybersecurity posturing, we have implemented a vendor risk assessment process. So within that process of not just the data elements that we're going into partnership with a vendor, we require them to respond to us, provide their SOC 2 Type 1, Type 2, or Type 3 report, depending on the type of data that we're sharing. We also ask a series of questions, cybersecurity questions, about their data centers, how they're protecting the data, what standards, very similar to the standards that we've adopted here as a school district. There's a number of different standards, so we ask them to check off, and that's actually part of the Student Data Privacy Agreement. We're part of the Student Privacy Consortium. I think right now in the state of Florida, 40 of the 67 districts have subscribed to that. The Florida Department of Education actually provides our subscription fee for us to be part of that consortium, and then use that master agreement in conjunction with all the other Florida school districts that have chosen to participate. And obviously with the new statutory requirements, this is going to facilitate a portal that each time we have one of these agreements executed, with the new statute in place, we have to place that agreement in the data elements that we're sharing publicly to notify all parents what data elements with what vendor. This agreement will allow us to facilitate that process.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That's it? Ms. Fry?
Yeah, that was gonna be good segue, because that was what I wrote down, data breach. And you're saying it's done by this vendor, you feel pretty secure with it. My question would be a legal question to Mr. Dye and DiAgostino. What would happen if we have this agreement with this particular vendor and our data was compromised? I mean, do they have to have a certain level of liability coverage for something like this? I don't know who this question needs to go to. I'm kind of looking around the room.
Did you review the contract?
Yeah, I negotiated and went back and forth
Okay.
regarding the terms and service of the data privacy agreement with Panorama. I don't know if that's the answer to that specific question off the top of my head. If you could give me a couple minutes to look through.
Oh, you're fine.
I can try to tell you the specifics of what the agreement says. So if you can come back to me.
Oh, that's all right. I just want to make sure, because you see too often, you can have so many firewalls up. Am I right using that term? Okay. You've had so many different firewalls up. And one person can worm their way through, and that's what it's called, is a worm. They get through there and they start hacking you and hacking you and hacking you. And when you put that firewall up, another one, if it gets breached, then another one is put up. It's just kind of like building blocks, to be honest with you. Anytime somebody's trying to access data, a building block will go up to stop that. I'm not saying I'm not going to support this. I'm just saying we have an awful lot of data that people would love to get their hands on with our students. And by doing these surveys, and you also said that we actually administer these surveys. Where do we administer them? In the classroom? Or is it an online survey?
Yes, in the classroom, yes.
We do it in the classroom. So a student is putting their name on their survey? Or is it a paper? I'm just asking, because we're going, you said it was from 4th on up.
Yeah, it probably is probably a little bit of both, but yes, it is student, it is the student's survey.
See, that even scares me more now that we have a student attached to a specific piece of paper, and I know we follow the student there.
Yeah.
But
Are
that's
students putting their name, date of birth, social security on this?
they're putting their name on there, correct? They're putting their name?
Yeah, it's for the most part probably online, you know, and they're
Okay.
filling out the survey.
Online, filling out the survey. So 4th graders are doing this survey online?
On our secure platforms.
Okay, using,
Yeah, on our.
I'm guessing their student
on our
ID.
ClassLink and all that.
Yeah, ClassLink, that's what I was trying to find the word, thank you. So, I get the concept, I really do, and it's the tail end of it. Will I look at this next year? Probably not. Just simply because I think there's gonna be more important things that we're gonna need to do. I mean, we just went through a presentation of, all those students are gonna be coming on, we're gonna have a whole lot more coming up. This would be one of those things I would probably do budget cut on. We talk about what we're gonna spend, but we never talk about what we're gonna cut. And I'm sure Superintendent Wysong, coming from Seminole, they got a lot of money too from, well, you as well, Mr. Jensen, from the ESSER. So, you're saying part of this is from the ESSER. So to me, it's like, it's gonna go away, I believe, so. Okay, go ahead.
If you're ready. Article 4 of the Data Privacy Agreement, Section 4 of that refers to the data breach, and in the event of an authorized release, it dictates exactly what the provider, and in this case Panorama, would be expected to do in terms of notifying us about the breach and then complying with all federal and state requirements with respect to a data breach related to student data. So they have to comply with all federal and state law in the event of a breach.
It could be legally liable that way, but could they be monetarily fined? I'm guessing by every county that has this. I don't know.
I'm not aware of what liability they would have
All right.
specifically financially.
Okay, I don't mean to just pepper you with that, but I didn't realize that we actually give them a physical paper survey and that they're,
Yeah, on most likely online
okay.
through our class.
I would rather do, I cannot see a printed survey being administered in a classroom. I just think that's totally wrong.
Right.
ClassLink, I can see that where, the parent
It's
is
all on
actually,
a secure
right, at a secure platform, but a paper survey, I would be totally against. Because I think that would be just almost too much pressure for a student to have to fill that out and turn it into a teacher. And I know I saw some of these paper surveys, probably not last year, but the year before, posted all over social media. Look what they told my kid they had to do. and that was bad optics for us. So now I can get the connection. It's like this full circle. Okay, I see where that's all coming from now. So, okay, that's basically what I have.
I have
so.
no other board members lit up to speak, so we can go ahead and vote on item number 15.1, approval of the purchase of Panorama Education Surveys, and that passes 5-0. Item number 2, Superintendent Weissong.
Thank you. I recommend approval of the 2023-24 salary schedules for SAMP. That's supervisory, administrative, managerial, and professional staff, hourly, non-bargaining, and school administrator positions.
So moved.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. And anything else you'd like to add for this item, Dr. Weissong?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this is the final piece of our personnel salary and benefits approvals for the 23-24 school year. At the last couple of meetings, you approved all of our bargaining unit employees agreements for 23-24. So this covers the employees who are not governed by collective bargaining, specifically administrators, and then very specific non-bargaining hourly employees. So this will wrap up that process so that we can get payments adjusted and locked in for 23-24, and then that puts us into the 24-25 budget season.
Thank you. I have Ms. Spray and
Right.
Mr. Tatum.
And, yeah, I went through this document in depth during my briefing, but I just wanted to point out a few things. That this also includes principals as well. And oddly enough, we had principal month. So I'm not going to beat up on it too much, but I was a little surprised at how some of the additional supplements that are given to principals, if they're in a title to a non-title, a middle or high, if they're a special committee, if they're on the student code of conduct or any other curriculum committee, and then extended hours, and then professional development. The increase is all rolled up into all of those electives. To me, is what I call it, basically an elective. So I don't know, I did have a long conversation with the superintendent about this is how they structured it. We are they now. So that's something we need to look at, in my opinion, because I think that's a little top-heavy, in my opinion. But, yeah. Anyway.
Mr. Tatum?
I just had one point I wanted to make, and that is that, so there are like 3 categories of employees, as I understand it. There are some people that are covered by collective bargaining agreements, and then there's everybody else except one person, and that person would be Dr. Weissong. I'm just making the point that his contract is something separate from what we're approving today. Just information for the public to know that he is not included in this, what we're approving today, that his contract is something that we decide on, and then we either talk about it on an annual basis, whether or not he has any adjustments to it or not. It's just a interesting point for people to know that he's not covered in this. Is that correct?
Right.
Am I saying that correctly?
That's correct. That's right. That employment agreement is separate, and those provisions apply, not this item.
Right. And I hope I'm just making that point. I didn't know it. It was interesting to me because I just thought maybe you got the same raise as everybody else did, or we put a percentage to it, but your contract is something separate that the board decides on, and it's not included in what we might call the supervisory raises and all that kind of stuff. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Messenger?
Yeah, sorry. I was trying not to make comments, but I cannot not say that our principals do the hardest job in the district. I cannot imagine a harder job right now than being a principal at one of our schools. Just the amount of legislation that's being pushed upon our schools, and especially our principals and having to deal with it across our school, for all those students, I cannot imagine a more difficult job than being a principal. we have to be so competitive to even keep them. So I appreciate the structure. If we want to come up with a different structure, that's fine. But paying them less or considering it as top heavy is so inaccurate. And if we really want to do that, then we need to look at a true pay study of what our competition is paying around us, because there are districts next door that pay more than we do for our principals. And it is the hardest job. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. So we've got a motion and a second on the floor to approve the 23-24 salary schedule for SAMP. So let's go ahead and cast our votes for that, and that passes 5-0. Item number 3, Superintendent Weissong.
Thank you. I recommend approval of the revised job description and position of Chief Operations Officer to Executive Director for School Support Services.
So moved.
I'll second.
Dr. Weissong, would you like to elaborate on this item, please?
Thank you, Chairman. This position was formerly occupied by Mr. Rinaldi prior to his elevation to Deputy Superintendent. So this position provides leadership, guidance, and support to a variety of departments: transportation, food service, maintenance and custodial, construction, and so it's a critical position. I did not immediately post it because I wanted Mr. Rinaldi to make the transition into the deputy job and then do that job for a little bit of time and then talk about what our needs are. And that's part of my commitment to you, that every time we have a leadership vacancy, that we'll stop and say, do we need what we were doing before, or do we need something different, or do we need something less, or something more? In this case, this update does really functionally does two things. The first is update the job title to reflect that at its core, the job of our operations team is to support schools. That's what we're here for, that instruction and students are at the center of our work, and everyone else supports that effort. There's also a name change there from chief to executive director, there's a thought there that the term chief in the corporate world designates an official who's reporting directly to the chief executive officer. And I think as we continue to educate the public, the business community, and taxpayers about how this system, works, the executive director title is more appropriate. The compensation range is the same, so there is no fiscal impact. The position was budgeted. Functionally, the other difference that if the board approves the change tonight, we'll post the position, so it will be a competitive process for both internal and external candidates. But the person selected will actually work out of the Matsky and Wakeland centers as opposed to this building, so that they are on the ground, on site, with all of our department heads who are doing those school support functions. So that will be the major difference in implementation.
Thank you. I have no speakers lit up, so let's go ahead and vote on the approval of the revised job description and position of Chief Operations Officer to Executive Director, School Support Services. And that passes 5-0. Item number 4, Superintendent Weissong.
Thank you. I recommend approval of the 6th amendment to the agreement to purchase property from Havel Farms LLC for North River Ranch.
So moved.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second, and if you want to explain this, or I know you had Mr. Penley, whichever one.
I'll start, and then Mr. Penley can handle implementation questions. Chair Choden, board members, this is an amendment with the seller of a property that we need to acquire in order to continue to accommodate growth in the east part of the county. This is for a middle school. So again, the board previously approved this purchase agreement. There have been some extensions to the closing date, and there's now been a very slight adjustment to scope that was beyond my authority as superintendent to approve. And so that's why it's back before you tonight. And I'll defer to Mr. Penley for any other specifics.
Good evening. In October of 2020, this board entered into an agreement with Havel Farms to purchase this middle school site. It's 30 acres. It's in North River Ranch, which is actually in the parish area. The agreement required that the seller provide certain improvements, meaning utility improvements and roadway improvements to the site by May 1st of 2022. They seem to have overestimated their ability to deliver those improvements within that time frame, because we have provided 3 extensions to them so far. That's why this is the 6th amendment to the contract. A significant portion of the improvements have been completed, but there's one area that has not, and they have recently informed us that they're unable to complete those improvements in a timely manner. So, in fact, some of that area is controlled by another entity at this point. So what they're proposing is to shift a road that would connect to our bus entrance to be closer to our site and a more direct, shorter route. And what that does is it allows them to design it, permit it, and construct it quicker than they could the originally contemplated improvements. We intend to submit for permits for our school, for the middle school, in approximately 2 weeks, and break ground in early 2024. So it's not possible for the seller to complete these other improvements, the alternative improvements now, prior to that time frame. So this contract envisions us closing on the property before those improvements are installed. However, as part of the original, or part of the compensation, wrong term, part of the agreement where we would pay the seller, we are providing them 17 acres of property that we have not, we did not have a use for, north of State Road 64. What we're proposing as an assurance that this road gets built is to hold back that 17 acres until these improvements are in. At that point, then we would transfer that property to them. So it would be put in escrow. That 17 acres is becoming very important to them because they're developing all around that property at this time. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Ms. Spray, was that up first?
On the attachments, the documents, it has a little yellow, little kind of triangle almost. That is what we added to this property, or I guess
I omitted saying that. Because of this shift in the roadway, there'll be a slight shift in the boundary of our property. It's less than an acre of the 30 acres. We will get just as much as we're giving back to them, so it still remains 30 acres, but it will change that boundary slightly in that area, yes.
Okay. Okay, so based on this slide where I see the green shaded area is what we're talking about, and we're shifting that little yellow section up, I'm guessing?
We would, basically, we would get the yellow area.
Yeah, added to current school property boundary.
We would give them back the red area.
Oh, the red area,
Yeah.
okay. So it nets, basically, is what you're saying. It just, the way it's laid out in the yellow section opposed to the red line, okay.
And it may look a little bit bigger.
All right.
One versus the other, but they're the same size. We're still going to end up with 30 acres.
Okay, all right.
Ms. Foreman?
I just want to point out that the Exhibit B1 is what is referenced in the amendments to the contract. Is that correct?
That is correct. B1, which was omitted from the contract accidentally, that was provided to Ms. Cox tonight, and she did a very good job of being able to email that to you guys. So I appreciate that. But B1 shows basically where the roadway would be, and I have that here on the screen. I don't know if we can yeah, it's up.
We can see
Magic.
it.
So,
Can you describe what
yes.
road access?
So, the original agreement back in 2020 contemplated the seller extending Fort Hamer Road to Fort Hamer Road is shown in the orange on this. They were going to extend Fort Hamer Road to that roundabout and then extend Fort Hamer Road north of that as well. It also envisioned that they would provide, you see the school site here, the road that's south of the school site. That's called Road FF. I think now it has a formal name, but they were to extend that to the end of our school site. They've done that. That road's in place. I've driven on it. It's there. They've extended the utilities. So what they're unable to deliver is the rest of the extension of Fort Hamer north of the orange area. And then there was a road going almost straight across that would tie into the north side of our site. They're unable to deliver that. So what they're proposing is to do this road that's highlighted in yellow here, which was never contemplated to begin with, but now they're saying we can design that and permit it and construct it. And I know that they've got plans to submit to the county. I think they're already in the county for completeness review. So they're trying to move along with this, and that provides access to the north side of the site. You can see in our site where a driveway comes in, and that is our bus drive and service delivery, like, you know, cafeteria, trash pickup, that type of thing.
Okay, now, in the original, where it's the east-west, and then there's a south connector to what is now the Yellow Road. It's Yellow Brick Road. So that is no longer in the plan? Am I correct on that? My concern is.
Can you ask me that again?
Well, the connector from the original east-west road that is, I assume that's.
On the north side of the site.
On the north side,
Yeah.
it's still gonna happen, right, eventually?
Eventually it will. It's part of their development plans.
Okay. What I'm asking about is for the neighborhood, just to the immediate north of the property, the connector from that road into the school site, are they committed to completing that?
They're not committed to doing that, and if they don't, it would be certainly inconvenient for any students and parents that live up in that area. They would have to go around and through that neighborhood to get to the school site. But
That's not on us, though.
It's not on us. We can function without it. And I suspect that their residents will demand that they do this, but it's not on us.
Okay, residents.
Yeah.
You know, that you do need to pay attention to that, so.
But the yellow road gets us into the back of the site, the service area, the bus area, and it really just, the road's mainly there for us.
Did we contemplate adding that connector road in our amendments? Did we even discuss that with them?
No. You're talking about the yellow road?
I'm talking about the connection from that neighborhood into the yellow road.
No. No, we did not.
Is this where you're talking about right
Yes, that road right there.
I wanna make sure.
Yeah, because if you're up in that
Yeah.
neighborhood, you're gonna have to go all the way back out to Fort Hamer, maybe,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I would estimate, just based on lot sizes and everything, that road's probably 200 to 250 feet at that point.
Oh, so that's not.
Yeah, it's not
that's
far.
that far. Okay, that's, okay. Thank you, Mr. Penn.
Yes.
Mr. Tatum?
Hello, Mr. Penland.
Hi.
So will the improvements that the builder is not able to complete in a timely manner still be completed, or?
They will be completed, but not necessarily to serve us. I mean, they need to complete those to serve their own development.
Will they be completed by the time the school opens?
No, sir.
So this is a proposition to mitigate that?
Yes, sir.
What does I know what the word unable means, but in this case, what does it mean that they are unable to deliver the improvements?
A couple different things. They can't design and permit the remaining part of Fort Hamer Road and the east-west extension north of the site in that time frame.
Okay.
The other part of it is they have ceded some control of that area to another developer. So they're relying on another developer now as part of this to develop that road. And so they have limited control over that.
So when we had a contract with them and we had some stipulations in the contract, and then they said we can't meet the stipulations in the contract, and so they came back to us and said, would you like to change the contract to do this other thing? And we said yes. Well, we haven't said yes yet, that's our vote, but
right.
The recommendation from the staff is yes. Why do you, if they're the ones who want to change, I guess my question number one is, why are we allowing them to change? And number two, is it in our best interest to allow them to change? And then number three, as I thought about it, what are the consequences of not allowing them to change? So
let's start with number three.
Okay, start with number three.
The consequences.
Sure.
As I just said, we're going to submit for permits within a couple weeks.
Okay.
We should have our permits in January. Construction would begin in early February. So we would need to own the property in order to undertake construction on it. So we can wait and have the other improvements done, but that could be a couple years out before we could even start construction on this school. So that's the pickle we're in.
So wait, did we close on this? We haven't closed on this.
No, sir.
So we've kind of set up our plan in a certain way, and they came back. So it's a contract, and I guess I'm trying to equate this to a real estate contract where if I were to buy a house and I said, okay, I'll buy your house, but you have to repair the roof. And then we sign a contract, and people say, yep, we'll repair the roof. And then they come back and they say, no, we don't want to repair the roof. I don't know, Ms. D'Agostino, what are your thoughts on the legality of, like, can we hold them to this? Like, you just have to get it done, or you have to do it, or what are your thoughts on, or maybe both of you, I don't know, you're both lawyers, but do you think we're getting a good deal here, so to speak? It seems like what happened was we had a contract with the developers, and then they said they want to change the contract. They made a deal with some other they made a deal with some other developer, and now because of the deal they made with another developer, they can't uphold the contract they made with us. I'm not real comfortable with that, but then there's all these laws and rules and things, and that's why we have the two of you up here. So.
Well, although I was involved in some preliminary discussions about this, Mr. Dye had more time to look into this in depth, so I'm going to turn it over to him and let him answer your questions, because he's more intimately familiar with this, and he assisted, I think, in drafting the amendment.
Okay.
I thought she was going to jump in and answer it. She just introduced me.
There you
go. So, Mr. Tatum, good questions, of course. I don't personally know the reasons why the seller got into this situation, and what led up to it, and why they were not able to perform what they had agreed to. So, and Mr. Penley may know more. He's done more of the direct negotiation with their people. But despite that, there's the situation I think the school district's in is there's just a shortage of land out there at this point. So there's not a lot of great options to just let's move over and do it on this other parcel that's in the same district, in the same area. It's really starting, we're really starting to run out of land out in this part of the county. And in addition, a lot of work's gone into planning and getting ready to build this school, as Mr. Penley pointed out. And there's a need for having the school. There's a lot of crowded schools in that part of the county. So a lot of work has gone into trying to rescue this deal for those reasons, as compared to that if your analogy of you're building a house and your builder's running into trouble and you say, well, I'm just going to go build with this other builder, you know. But out in this situation, there's a uniqueness to this piece of ground, the need the district has, the work that's gone into, tremendous amount of work that's gone into being at the point of close to even breaking ground in an area that has need, you know, for more schools. So with that pressing need of the district, a lot of work has gone into can you rescue this deal where it's still beneficial and achieves everything that the district needs to do. And one of the concerns I had is Mr. Penley and his crew, the construction department, have done something very smart over the years, which is when buying raw land, the contracts are structured where the utilities and the infrastructure get put in before the closing. And the land value is based on, you know, the property as improved with those characteristics, not just raw land, agricultural land, or whatever. So top dollar is paid because it's going to have all these great improvements where it's ready to build. And that's the same case here. The appraisals are based on, you know, the property having these improvements. So when you, in this case, closing without some of those improvements, I mean, some are in, but not all of them are in, as you've seen on that Exhibit B1. So there's security for the district in going ahead and proceeding with our schedule of when to build this school and go ahead and get going on it. We came up with this idea that part of the consideration that we're paying for this property was we're trading a piece of property to this developer. And that was going to be simultaneous with the closing as well, which they want, because they are also proceeding with planning and building on it. So they're very eager. They're kind of like us in reverse in that case, is they want that piece. So how we ended up structuring this to protect the district is this Amendment 6 says that that piece of property won't be transferred to them until these improvements are put in. And the value of that land is more than enough to cover the value of these improvements. So it's good security.
So that's what I was looking for, I guess, is that there's, I don't want to use the word penalty, but there is some quote unquote price to pay for the breach of the contract, in the sense of, like I said, if I were buying a house and the roof needed to be replaced and the contract said the seller will replace the roof, and then the seller came back and said, I don't want to replace the roof, I'd say, well, then we're going to knock $50,000 off the price of the house, because that's how much it's going to cost me to, you know, repair the roof. And what I think I heard you say was the price to pay, so to speak, for wanting to modify the terms of the contract is fine, we'll hold this piece of parcel in reserve until, now is this kind of all agreed on by both sides at this
Yes.
point, or?
Yes, it's in this amendment 6.
Okay, great. And then if we could, Ms. Cox, may we please get the image back up of the property? So where is north on this, Mr. Penn?
Straight up.
That's north?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fort Hammer Road goes north, that's right. So where was this, this little exit from the neighborhood? Is that to the east of the yellow? Remember there was a discussion between Ms. Spray and Ms. Foreman about an exit out of the neighborhood to get onto a road? But the developer wasn't going to do that, it wasn't part of the plan, or where is that point exactly on here?
I'll answer it two different ways, because I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but this should cover it.
Okay.
So originally, Fort Hamer was to be extended to about where you see that wetland. That's, if you look just on the north side of the yellow road, there's a wetland. It says wetland 23, I believe.
Okay, yep.
So originally, there was going to be an east-west road right in that area, and it would tie into Fort Hamer. Okay.
So Fort Hammer is the yellow road? Excuse
No,
me.
Fort Hamer is the orange.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so.
So they're not planning on that anymore. Okay. And the other part of that conversation is at the northern terminus of that yellow road, just north of our site, there's a piece in there that I'm estimating is about 250 feet going straight north that ties into another east-west road. I think that's what Ms. Foreman was talking about.
But somehow that would, the addition of that road would make things much more convenient for people to get to the school, or?
It would, yeah.
You know, I'm just envisioning, you know, the parent who's driving along this big wall going, but the school's right, it's right over there. Can't you just, why didn't somebody just put a little exit here for us to get out? And they gotta go all, driving around the walls of the neighborhood to go, that's the kind of thing that I keep talking about, like, anyway, any thoughts on my thoughts? Like, with nothing we can do about that, we shouldn't make that part of our contract and say, build this road, but I don't know, I mean, it's been negotiated. And
I understand your comments, concerns, I understand Ms. Foreman's. And we are in a spot basically because we need this middle school. And if we were not planning on building right now, I would probably be standing here with a different recommendation for you.
Did we talk to them about that, and they just kind of said, nah, we're not going to do that? Was that kind of what they said? Yeah. If you want your thing now, that's why they call it negotiations, right?
It's the only way they can get us to the north side of the site.
Okay. Well, maybe as you're going down this road, somehow, so that, when will this school be kind of occupied, do we know?
August 25.
August of 25, so Lord willing, I'll still be in office unless I get hit by a bus or something, but I just have that parent, emailing us on the 15th, on the 11th of August, 2025, going, but the schools, why? I gotta go. All right, that's all. I'll stop talking about that.
So,
keep your eye on it, please.
I mean, I don't think it's not our right to tell the developer where to put their roads, to be honest with you. I mean, my question is, where is our access to this school on this map? Is it on that left and right road?
So there's two access points. One, the minor access is on the northern end of that yellow road. You can.
Right, and that's where the bus loop goes.
That's the bus loop, yep.
Right.
On the southern road, just south of our site.
It's like that four-way little area.
It is at the four-way, basically it's a four-way intersection.
So that's our main entrance.
That is our main
because that parking lot's right there.
Yes.
Where I'm assuming then admin's right there, et cetera.
Yes.
So my question is, do we need the yellow site for our buses to get there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there's no other way to get our buses back to that bus loop besides that yellow line?
There is.
Okay.
But I haven't shared that with the
Okay. Okay. I mean, I guess, I mean, so, I mean, I don't know if it's our responsibility as a school board to dictate how developers develop their land, where they put their roads. But, it is what it is. They've got to work with us on our contract. I completely understand that. But, it's up to and Ms. Foreman said it. You live in that neighborhood, you better get on that board. You better do something and say, we want this road finished. But I don't know that shouldn't fall under us to make sure that we are doing it or they are doing it, in my personal opinion.
So this is a backup plan to get us to the north side of our site. We have a backup to the backup that we've discussed as staff.
Okay.
But we want to rely on this.
Yeah, I'm not saying we gotta expose, but that's, I mean, if it's, my question was, if we were to say no to this deal, does it hinder us from building this place? That's my question. I'm not saying I'm going to, but we can still get what we need to get done theoretically. Don't worry about it. Don't answer that question.
Okay.
Ms. Spray is lit up to speak.
You said that the little section just north of the yellow brick road, you're saying that's only about 250 feet?
That would be my estimate. I'm looking at a lot just north of there, and those lots are typically about 60 feet deep.
Right.
So I'm just,
I mean,
it might not even be that far. It might be 200 feet.
And that's their property, not,
Yes.
it would be, okay. Maybe if we're holding that other little piece of land that they want, we can say, we need some gravel. So we don't have that parent driving all the way around. Oh, well, the school's just right there. I gotta drive around, like Mr. Tatum said.
We can have those discussions. I don't think, and I'm crossing my fingers when I tell you this, I don't think those residential units will be there north of the site when the school opens. I don't think so.
Okay, that's good to note, because there could be a possibility that they may have construction up on that part of this land, and that would give us access to the north part of the school, correct?
Right.
Okay, I feel better now, because I'm like, okay, if they put a construction fence around, that little section, we would be in a real pickle with all of the parents going around all the way around that community to a four-way just to get in to the back part of the school.
So none of these, you see all the lots on here, none
Right.
of these lots that
Or
are
developed yet. That's
developed.
just a visual for us.
Yeah, that's what they're
basically.
planning. That's the plans they're submitting to Manatee County.
Okay, so if that's what they're submitting to the county, might have to talk to the county about that little 250 feet. Help us out here. Because it could essentially come to Mr. Chair Choate's opinion. It's not up to the district to tell the developer what to do. But it could be a goodwill effort by the county to say, hey, I know the district across the way over here is building a school right there. Would you consider just at least doing something to where we have access to that before you develop all of that? I know I'm just saying, it would be a good neighborly thing to do for the county to look at that little 250 feet and say, our, board on the school board and all of the staff here and their county commission and all of their staff, that could be a kind of a goodwill effort, in my opinion.
And certainly.
If it was 2 miles, I could see where there would be, a lot of resistance from the developer, but we're talking about 250 feet.
Yeah, but it's also going to depend on when they can extend Fort Hamer
right.
and then that east-west road. So it's the 250 feet, but until they get the rest of that, they're not building units up there.
Right, okay.
But, I mean, I can certainly have those discussions with the seller as well. And,
Right.
yeah, even though there's nothing contractually we have, I don't know, they have a lot of reason not to do that. It's not a huge expense to them, and it's something
Right.
that serves their residents.
I mean, when you look at the diagram, I mean, 250 feet, like I said, I can walk that. You know, but having a parent drive all the way around those neighborhoods and everything, that's quite the ask. And I don't want, you know, I'm gonna support this, obviously, because there's been a lot of effort to get this done, and we need it, to be honest. But there's always, it doesn't always have to be in writing to do it. There's that goodwill that goes along with that. So, okay, that was just, I mean, shells, if anything. Yeah.
Mr. Tatum?
Just to Mr. Cho's point, I understand what you're saying about not dictating to private entities as a government organization what to do, but this is a negotiation, you know, to me. That's just the point. The community, the citizens of the community would expect us, like, this makes sense, that's all. It doesn't make sense not to have that road there. I understand where we are. Life's not perfect. It may or may not happen, but the other idea I had as well, let's say that they're just real firm. We're not, well, just at least a sidewalk or something, you know, so the kids, you can, or, you know, a bike path or a golf cart path or something, because again, if I had moved into one of those houses up north eventually 3 years from now, and like, the school's right there, it's just one of those things as a community, you think, who designed this? Who didn't think, why didn't, you know, I would be thinking to myself, why didn't the county and the school board and the developers figure this out, you know? That's my only point. I'll stop talking.
But they haven't said they're not going to do that, right?
No, sir, this
So
is what they're proposing.
everything we just talked about for 20 minutes is
Yeah.
hypothetical.
I mean, this is their drawing.
I mean, but, right? I mean, so they don't even know, we don't even know if they may not even develop north of it. We don't know if there's gonna be houses there. And so, okay. I don't see any other speakers lit. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
For
you.
your presentation.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Cox, for getting that up there, for everybody to see, because I know that amendment was not on the original. So let's go ahead and vote on the approval of the Sixth Amendment and hopefully final to the agreement to purchase property from Havel Farms, North River Ranch.
I want to talk about another 20 minutes.
Okay.
These are board comments.
You still got your comments to talk about it.
You're getting that.
Passes 4-0. Was not put in. Oh, Ms. Foreman?
Oh, I did, I did hit it.
Passes
No,
5
this
to
is Mr. Tatum.
passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Penley.
Thank you.
Item number 16, new business, no recommendation from the superintendent. So item number 1 is approval of travel expense associated with the school board members' attendance at the FSBA FADS Annual Joint Conference, November 28th through December 1st at the Grand Hyatt Tampa Bay. Note are not to exceed $5,600.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. And this is our annual conference. I think is everybody signed to go?
I think so.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll see you there, but I won't be able to talk to you.
By the way, this is over my anniversary, so.
Sorry, it's getting late in the meeting. I'm just getting a little, you know. So let's go ahead and vote on our approval of the FADS and FSBA. It's approved 5-0. Item number 2, approval of the travel expense associated with school board members' attendance at the Florida School Finance Officers Association, FSFOA, November 23rd conference, November 6th through the 9th at Daytona Beach Oceanfront, not to exceed $1,500. I believe, Ms. Foreman, this is you?
That's me. So
Okay.
moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Hope you enjoy your oceanfront hotel.
Yeah, Daytona Beach is. You see my son coming from Stetson, let me know.
Mhm.
Let's go ahead and vote on approval of the travel expense associated with board member going to FSFOA. And that
Oh, sorry.
is approved 5-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Enjoy.
New workshop items, we need them because we got pretty much everything done through December, so give those to Dr. Weissong. No more public comment. We don't have any else. So number 19, legal department.
Yeah, I had one thing I wanted to bring up this Friday at our workshop, and I don't want to be accused of promoting this to everybody, but the board already voted not to participate in the social media litigation. When I reported that to the attorneys, they did offer to do a short presentation and a Q&A with the board that I didn't really think much about. You know, it's been quite a bit of time since then. Quite a few other districts have joined in that litigation in Florida. And then we got into the cell phone policy, which really ties in to the social media litigation. And I thought it would be a good use of time to go ahead and let them have their presentation, and because it also, I think, is relevant to your cell phone policy discussions. So they're out in California. I've arranged for them to have a time certain, I think 11 a.m. at your workshop on Friday. And I don't think it'll last that long. Your Q&A will dictate how long it lasts. I think it's like a 10-minute thing. And there have been some significant things that have happened in that case. I'll forward to you. I think I forwarded it to Dr. Weissong. And I'll send that to you before the workshop so you can look at it and have the benefit of that. So I think it'll be worth your time to hear their presentation and be able to ask them questions of whether you think it's something you'd want to pursue or not.
Thank you. Ms. DeAugustina? Anything?
No updates at this time.
All right. Operations update, Mr. Rinaldi.
Good evening. I've just got a couple of quick ones. Human resources. Our next operations and paraprofessional job fair is tomorrow, or excuse me, is October 26th, so it's on Thursday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So that's going to be our last October one, and it'll really be the last chance to get people on board before the holidays come. Our next operations and para will be the first week in December, and then that group will get on board right after the first of the year. I mean, we're going to continue our recruitment and all that, but these are the last two major events that we've got coming up for 2023. Transportation, I'm pleased to finally announce after a year we've got our first electric bus coming in on Thursday. So we're pretty happy about that. Of course, FP&L hasn't completed our chargers yet, and they're thinking they'll be complete right before Thanksgiving. So we'll have enough of charge for a couple days, but we won't be putting them immediately into use anyways. But the first bus will be on site on Thursday. We're pretty happy about that. We at this time have an additional 5 drivers going through training, so we're continuing that at different levels of training, some classroom training, some on the road training as well. In addition to that, we've been working for about the past 2 weeks with Where's the Bus app, and they have identified that we've got some issues in regards to the fidelity of the information that's getting out to the parents. They've come up with a couple of resolutions. They're going to actually be on site with us in the next week and a half to sit down. I don't think that our problems are unique, because when we began to describe them, it seemed like they had some recommendations on how to resolve them. So we're going to be working with them directly on site. And we have gotten to the point, which we haven't in the past, that we're now able to pull up at the Manatee Center and see actually what the parent is looking at. And I think that's a new item that they created after maybe us and some other districts started to say, we need to see what those parents are actually seeing on the app. So, but we'll be training with them, hopefully resolving all the issues. Food service, they're testing a new vegan options at 3 middle schools and 3 high schools. Impossible Burgers and Morningstar Veggie Nuggets are being offered daily, in addition to other vegan items. Schools participating in the test program include Braden River High, Lakewood Ranch and Parish Community High, Buffalo Creek, Mona Jane, and Nolan Middle School. So just another offering. Ms. Tomei always comes up with some unique things, so we're looking forward to that. Update on the milk carton. We have not had any issues with our milk cartons at this point. Our primary vendor, we're talking on a daily basis with them. We're thinking maybe 2 weeks out, we may see some issues coming up. The waiver from the USDA has been received through the Florida Department of Agriculture to ensure that we will get reimbursement even if we cannot offer the milk that's part of the standard requirement. So that's been done. We're hoping that we're not going to see any issues, but we're prepared if we will see the issues. Construction services, we have scheduled our ribbon cutting for Buffalo Creek Elementary School. That's the media center, as well as the admin renovations that we have done there. Nice 2-story media center. It's going to be November 15th at 5:30 p.m. So please come out and visit that site. I know that the school's very happy with it, and construction services is as well.
What's the plan if in 2 weeks, let's say, if we don't get milk?
If we don't get milk, well, they've actually begun to deliver some shelf-stable milk for us as well, and short of using the rations like that, we will be doing some pouring for those students that either require or really desire milk as well. So.
Gotcha.
I have a question.
Yep.
Mr. Ross. So how many qualified bus drivers do we have today?
Right now, we're at about 105, including 4. We've gotten all of the administrators off the bus, but we still have 4 mechanics that are driving. So we're thinking that group, the next class coming through, will get the mechanics off from being temporary drivers as well. So it's a big step for us to get the administrators off.
So we'll be up to 109 or something?
About 105 to, yeah. We've got, right now, we have 8 drivers on leave as well, and we're evaluating when their leaves run out. So we could be, up right under 110 if we get all those drivers back from leave as well.
What's the optimum number? What's the optimum number
In order to cover any call-ins for sickness and all that, it's always around 115 to 120 would be ideal if you have a bad day where 10% of your workforce calls in.
We started around 90 at the beginning of the year.
We were in the low 90s at that, so we're inching slowly.
Okay. Do you see any operational improvements, so to speak, based on 12 or 13 new bus drivers or whatever?
Well, I mean, operationally, it's nice to have new bus drivers. We are having some structures with problems with familiarity of routes and procedures, and we have had some missed bus stops and things like that. So there's a little growing pain associated with that, but I mean, we're hoping to get away from the double backs, which are the major delaying points. And we're working with the drivers to make sure they're using the technology, their route tablet and all that as they go through their routes.
So the double back is an issue of not having enough drivers. We have the buses. It's just, so if we get a certain amount of drivers, then we cannot do double backs.
Right, so what happens with the double backs is you overpopulate a bus, where if you had 2 buses, it would be evenly distributed and you'd be able to not double back and it'd just be 2 drivers, yeah.
That's obviously key. I mean, I do get emails. And school ended 2 hours ago, and my kid is still not getting off the bus. What the heck, but we're working on it. So, but that impacts their whole life, their evening, their ability to do homework and all that kind of stuff. But I know it sounds like we're slowly but surely making progress towards the goal. So that's good. Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Jensen.
Good evening, Chair Choate, board members, Superintendent Weissong. As October comes to a close, I wanted to give you and our community members an update on some of the important required instruction topics that are coming up in November. The first of which is Holocaust Education Week, the second week in November, and that's a K-12 mandate. To teach this topic, our teachers use resources from DOE, the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, and the Florida Holocaust Museum. Additionally, the Jewish Federation of Sarasota Manatee is offering supplemental programming to schools across our district, including the Daffodil Project, which supports schools in planting a daffodil garden to honor the 1.5 million children murdered during the Holocaust. The following schools are participating this year: Braden River Elementary, Braden River Middle, Buffalo Creek Middle, Lakewood Ranch High, Lee Middle, and Palmetto High School. We also have a number of other schools that have participated in the past that still tend to those garden projects. Additionally, some schools, including Palmetto High School, are having a Holocaust survivor come and visit campus to speak to their student about their experiences, and that's being arranged at the Jewish Federation of Sarasota Manatee. The second instruction topic is for Veterans Day, where students receive instruction on Medal of Honor recipients. They also receive that on Medal of Honor Day and Memorial Day. Resources from DOE have been shared with teachers to support instruction on that topic, and schools also recognize Veterans Day in a number of different ways, including door decorating competitions, news and announcements, hallway bulletin boards, and honorary luncheons and more. And then finally, on November 7th, we have Victims of Communism Day. That's a K-12 recognition with 45 minutes of required instruction in our government courses. There's also a standard on that topic embedded in our government courses. And the resources are provided from DOE, including videos and lesson plans developed as part of the Portraits in Patriotism project, which is a program developed by USF. And then finally, just on a science of reading update, the University of Florida's Lassinger Center has successfully done the first training for all of our elementary principals, assistant principals, literacy coaches. In addition, they've trained our United Way paraprofessionals that are working with first grade students at 8 of our Big Ten schools. And they've completed 2 professional learning sessions and started delivering Tier 2 interventions using those Flamingo lessons and the science of reading, which we're really excited about. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Superintendent.
Thank you, Chairman and board members. First, I appreciate your support of tonight's consent agenda. There were 17 items, and with your approval, we're able to continue to conduct the routine business of the district. I do want to highlight 2 items. First, you approved our annual school security and risk assessment report that is submitted to Florida DOE. Those reports are exempt from public disclosure, and of course we discussed them last Friday at a workshop in the shade, and we don't discuss content of those workshops either, but I do want to publicly thank Sheriff Wells, Chief Bevan, Chief Terry, and Lieutenant Hall for attending with us and sharing their perspective. And as I noted at the workshop, it is uncommon to see that level of collaboration between multiple law enforcement agencies and the school board to the extent that you have the leads of those agencies sitting and working with the board and the staff. So it was awesome to see that, and that just makes our schools that much safer every day. The other highlight is that you approved the human resources transactions, and that includes the hiring of Elaine Ellison to serve as our human resources recruitment coordinator. So that brings someone with expertise in recruiting into HR. And Vice Chair Spray, related to one of your earlier questions, part of Ms. Ellison's work is also employee retention, and so she'll be involved in some exit surveys and some outreach to employees leaving critical positions so that we can learn more from them about why they're leaving and whether we could have done something different. So that's important work. And then second, you approved the promotion of Melanie Johnson to be our new Assistant Director for Transportation. Ms. Johnson started in transportation, I believe, in 2010 as a driver and has worked her way up to the second-in-command position there. And we know we're going to benefit greatly from her expertise, her knowledge of the roads, and also her relationships with colleagues throughout the department. So we're excited for that promotion. We are continuing lots of outreach meetings as part of the end of my entry plan. And so last week I met with a group of faith-based leaders to talk about ways that the faith-based community supports our schools and students, and then also brought our SAC chairs together, and that's a group that will reconvene or will come together more often to be sure that we have good two-way communication between our SAC chairs and our district team. In addition to that, our cabinet members are visiting all of the SAC meetings this year to ensure that we're providing district updates to all of the volunteers who serve on our school advisory committees. Board members, thank you for allowing me 2 days of temporary leave to attend the Florida Association of District School Superintendents District Fundamentals Training. That was an opportunity to get some more instruction in the complex areas of school finance and school safety, along with the other new superintendents throughout Florida. So I appreciate the opportunity to participate in that professional development. And finally, I'm looking forward to our time together on Friday at our workshop. I will provide you with a verbal update on the completion of my entry plan, and a written report will follow as well. And of course, we're going to have, I think, a spirited and important discussion about our strategic plan and the direction that we're heading. So look forward to working with you all on Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Now on to board comments. So we've got Tatum, Foreman, Messenger Spray, myself. So Mr. Tatum?
Okay, good evening. So the first thing I would like to talk about is the Victims of Communism organization, Manatee VOCM. Coming up here, they're going to have a judging of the projects that they've done. And for people who don't know what that organization was about, it was a group of citizens that got together and are partnering with the school system to, they had an event where they brought in victims of communism, people that had lived in communist countries, and so these students and their parents and families were able to hear the stories. And then there's a project that the students can volunteer to do, and then there's some scholarships available for them. So this is all coming to a conclusion. I believe the judging is actually happening on Friday, this Friday the 27th. They have a group of citizens that are going to be judging those projects, and then there will be scholarships awarded to those students. So call out to them, a shout out to them, helping us in conjunction with the required instruction that we have to do from the school system. So, and when I say helping us, I mean it's just a whole community effort to really push forward this victim of communism idea and getting the word out there. For my safety moment this evening, I was over in the western part of town before the meeting today, and I got to the place where I was, and I said, okay, I put in, you know, the school support center, and how long is it going to take me to get there? And it said 15 minutes. All right. So if I leave at 4:15, I'll be there by 4:30, half an hour before the board meeting, plenty of time. That was about 2 o'clock. So I got in my car at 4:15, pushed the little GPS button. How long is it going to take me to get to the school support center? It said about 35 minutes. And I was like, oh man. So then I get anxious, right? And and things start happening, like, oh, I got to get there. I got a board meeting. I'm a board member. I got to be there. I got to put on my tie. Maybe I need to use the restroom. But what happens is that anxiety starts to build up, and you get to a yellow light, and you're like, should I get that yellow light? Should I go through it? Should I not go through it? And just when you feel that anxiety coming up when you're driving, like I'm late and I got to be somewhere, and I'm going to try and make that yellow light and get through it, or I'm going to cut in front of these people on that right turn. Just stop and say, no, I recognize what this is. I'm anxious. These are the kind of things that lead to maybe some accidents. So catch that in ourselves as we are driving around when we feel that anxiousness of lateness coming up, and calm ourselves down. If we're a minute or two late, the world will go. I have full confidence that the world will continue to turn if Mr. Tatum is 2 minutes late for a board meeting. And I have full confidence, and everybody's safe out there on the roads. Okay, let's see. As I go around to schools and I do these feeding empty little tummy deliveries, I talk to parents coming in and out of the schools, and I've been doing this now for, well, since I've been on the board. How do you like our schools? How do you like our public schools? I have yet to have a parent tell me they don't like them. that they're unhappy with something, that it's not good. I go, yeah, it's great, love it. You know, principal's a great teacher. So that's, I mean, I suppose the day might come when someone says they have an issue with it. But in general, I just want to make the point that, you know, I've talked to high school parents and middle school parents and elementary parents all over the county, and people are pretty happy with the school system. So that's encouraging and good to know. And then finally, going back to a little bit of our 20-minute conversation, maybe it didn't need to be 20 minutes, but I think there is something to be said for thinking ahead a little bit and just getting us thinking about these kind of things, like, so that it doesn't happen when the school's built and someone goes, why didn't they just build a road right there? You know, and you're right. I mean, that's the builder, ultimately it's his or her responsibility, but those are the type of things to start talking about now and get at Mr. Penley's head, maybe get at Mr. Dye's head and somebody from the county thinking about it, so they go, yeah, this needs to be on our radar. So how long that goes on maybe is something to think about, but it is worth, I think, just talking about the hypotheticals and getting that conversation going. So I appreciate that we had that conversation, and that's all I have this evening for my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Foreman.
Yeah. I want to commend the debate coach over at Southeast High School. She received a notice from the National Speech and Debate Association. I don't know if it ever made its way to the district, you know, about the honor. But out of 3,000 member schools nationwide, your school is one of only 108 to receive the Leading Chapter Award. Said your award reflects 287 members and degrees over 10 years. In that time, several hundred students have been taught communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration skills through speech and debate. So I just want to recognize her and commend her and the teams at Southeast High School for the last 10 years. It's a great program, and obviously something very dear to my heart. And then secondly, I want to address something that was brought up in public comment, and that has to do with getting books reinstated. I am aware of someone who filed a objection to the objection, and because our process and our procedures don't allow it, no one other than that original objector can object to the decision. And I do hope that that is something that we address and take a look at, and because it isn't right that only one objector can go against the or criticize the decision. You know, keeping in mind that it was a committee of media specialists, principals. You know, we had a committee that went through and made that decision. So it's not like it's one person making the decision, but we're still. I don't think we have it down yet. Is the point I'm trying to make. So, and with that, I think it was a good meeting, and I agree. The 20 minutes was well spent, and hopefully that could have been something that was negotiated, you know, at the time, you know, so I don't think you're out of line on that one. But I do hope that that gets resolved, and that access eventually comes into that neighborhood. So, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Ms. Messenger?
Yeah, I really honestly just looking at the time and that out of respect for.
Well, I didn't realize there was that late.
Yeah, out of respect for all the employees that are stuck listening to us yabber on, and one stuck at home listening to us yabber on, I have no other comments.
I wonder who the one is home. Ms. Spray?
I do have a few comments. One, Big Bank Theory is going on. I spent all of my day yesterday at Southeast, and I think the kids got a reality check on what their income would be if they dropped out versus if they went on to college. And there was so many different scenarios. I mean, kids, 2 kids, okay, you're married, not married, all those kind of things. It was fun. The time flew by just like it did today. I was able to tour Guardian Angels, places very dear to me, with staff and superintendent, and Ms. Foreman joined in, and I think they can see what wonderful things they do for our community, which ultimately ends up in the students. It impacts our students, our families, in all areas of the county. And tomorrow I will be touring Samoset, and to the, I want to say thank you to the people who are retiring. One was 23.7, food service worker, and another one that is a custodian for almost 20 years. I want to thank them for their service. And I have been to Palmetto, by the way. I know that was brought up, but I pack bags too and deliver to those schools. So, yeah, I want to say thank you all for being patient with me and all my questions that I peppered out. I think it's all well done. And again, I'm glad we looked at that little 250-foot. We all have relationship with our commissioner, I hope, in some way or another, that we could say, hey, look at this. We need you to look at that. So that's all I got.
I'm gonna say Ms. Foreman and I did Big Bang Theory, Bayshore last week.
Oh,
Was last
Bayshore?
week, right?
Oh, okay.
Seems like it was a lot longer ago, though, but it was only last week. And it is great. And if you haven't, for the people out there that would like to get involved with it, it's Manatee Chamber's website, and it really is a great program. If only it was it's only like 2 days. If only it was like 2 weeks for them to really get the reality of life when they get out of away from mom and dad. I want to say thank you to reiterate what Dr. Weissong said, to Sheriff Wells, to the chiefs that were there with us Friday. We had a really good discussion. I know it was shade, so we can't discuss what was going on. I know we proved the safety report tonight, and with everything that our district has done, and it hasn't been me at all. This was done years and years and years prior to this. For us to have someone like Paul D'Amico, and have a staff that is dedicated to safety, and we've put plenty of dollars into safety, and we can always do more. But with kids that go to these schools, I personally, my kids, one now that still does, I feel extremely safe in what we are doing to keep our kids safe, to keep guns, etc., out of the school system. And I think that there's more to come, and I think we can do more. But we've done so much, and I really appreciate them coming and spending the morning with us. And it was a really, really good discussion of everything we did. So I do want to thank them for spending their time, because they could have been anywhere else, and they chose to be with us and express their thoughts, and it was great. So thank you to staff that created the meeting for tonight and got this going. I know you got to turn around and get ready to go and work in the morning. So we appreciate you, Laura's. Thank you very much. With that, we'll see you Friday for another good workshop. We are adjourned.